Luka Suns incident. In the 2022 playoffs, the Phoenix Suns walked into their second-round series against Dallas with the best record in the league, 64 wins and 18 losses, plus the reigning Coach of the Year and a finals appearance the year before. Dallas hadn't won a playoff series since 2011. Phoenix jumped ahead 3-2, and Devin Booker mocked Luka's flopping reputation after Game 5, calling it the Luka Special. Walking off after that 30-point loss, Luka said, "Everybody acting tough when they up. That's when things shifted completely." Dallas destroyed Phoenix in Game 6, 113-86, with Luka dropping 33 points, 11 boards, 8 assists, and 4 steals. Then came Game 7. Luka scored 12 points in the first quarter alone, matching Phoenix's entire team output. By halftime, he had 27 points, and so did the entire Suns roster combined. Booker and Chris Paul shot 0 for 11 in the first half. Dallas won 123-90, a 46-point blowout at its peak. Luka finished with 35 points on 12 for 19 shooting. Phoenix became just the second team in NBA history to win 64 regular season games and miss the conference finals. Chris Paul suffered his 5th career series collapse after leading 2-0, the most in league history at the time. The team that spent days mocking Luka watched him single-handedly outscore their entire roster through a half-in-a-win or go-home game on their own floor, ending one of the most disappointing 60-win seasons ever recorded. Wemby Knicks taunt. During Game 4 of the 2026 NBA Finals at Madison Square Garden, Wemby and Mitchell Robinson got tangled up physically in the first quarter. Wemby had been talking trash the entire sequence. Robinson swung his forearm into Wemby's neck and face, drawing a flagrant one. While still on the ground during the review, Wemby clapped and shouted, "I'm in your head, boy." At that moment, he looked completely justified. San Antonio scored 41 points in the first quarter and led 41-22. They hit 14 threes in the first half, an NBA Finals record, and built the lead to 29 points, going into halftime up 76-49. New York was getting embarrassed at home in the finals. Then everything reversed. San Antonio scored just 30 points in the entire second half after dropping 76 before the break. Wemby missed 2 critical free throws late as New York clawed all the way back. OG tipped in the game winner with about 1 second left, and the Knicks won 107-106, the largest comeback in NBA Finals history. San Antonio's win probability for New York had dropped to around 0.4% in the fourth quarter before the collapse. Wemby finished with 24 points and 13 rebounds, but the story became his missed free throws in San Antonio, blowing 29 points. The Spurs fell behind 3-1 instead of tying the series. The player who announced he was inside his opponent's head became a central figure in the very collapse that followed. Morant West comments. In December 2022, Morant sat down with ESPN's Malika Andrews, who asked which teams worried him most. He named the Boston Celtics from the East. When she pushed about the Western Conference, Morant said, "I'm fine in the West." At the time, Memphis looked legitimate, coming off a 56-win season and a second seed the year before, with Morant winning Most Improved Player. But almost everything afterward turned that quote upside down. Memphis again finished as the second seed the following year at 51-31, then drew the 7th seeded Lakers, a team that started the season 2-10. Los Angeles stunned Memphis in Game 3, leading 35-9 after 1 quarter, tying the lowest scoring playoff quarter ever. Memphis lost the series in 6 games, capped by a 125-85 blowout in the elimination game. The Lakers advanced to the conference final, and Denver went on to win the title that year. Then things got worse off the court. Morant was suspended 8 games after an Instagram Live showed him with a firearm in March, then suspended 25 games after a second video surfaced in May. Memphis collapsed to 27 wins and 55 losses the next season and missed the playoffs entirely, with Morant playing only 9 games before season-ending shoulder surgery. Within about 16 months of the quote, Memphis had gone from a rising contender to an outright rebuild, proving the Grizzlies were nowhere near as settled in the West as Morant claimed. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Lance versus LeBron. Indiana finished the 2013-14 season with 56 wins, 2 better than Miami, earning home court in their Eastern Conference Finals rematch. Lance Stevenson was coming off his best season, and he believed his physical style could rattle LeBron James. Miami took a 3-1 lead after Indiana won Game 1. Before Game 4, Stevenson called James's trash talk a sign of weakness, and James answered with 32 points as Miami won. Before Game 5, Stevenson escalated further, invading Miami's huddle and putting his hand over James's face. Then came the moment everyone remembers. Stevenson blowing directly into James's ear. Indiana actually won that game, 93-90, with James managing just 7 points. But Game 6 was the real reckoning. Miami built a 24-13 first quarter lead, led 57-31 at half, and pushed it to 89-58 through 3 quarters, winning 117-92. James finished with 25 points on 8 for 12 shooting, while Stevenson managed just 11 points on 4 for 9. Miami shot 57.9% as a team. This marked the 3rd straight postseason Miami eliminated Indiana, following series wins in 2012 and 2013. Stevenson left for Charlotte in free agency weeks later. Paul George suffered his devastating leg injury that summer, and Indiana missed the playoffs the next year. James advanced to his 4th straight finals with Miami, while Stevenson's psychological tactics changed absolutely nothing about the outcome of that rivalry. Shaq and Kobe Part 2. Before the 2018 draft, DeAndre Ayton confidently said he and Devin Booker could become Shaq and Kobe 2.0 in Phoenix. The comparison created massive expectations before Ayton had played one professional game. Shaq and Kobe had won 3 consecutive championships with the Lakers, while Phoenix had just finished 21-61. The Suns selected Ayton first overall on June 21st, choosing him ahead of Luka and Trae Young. Joel Embiid soon entered the conversation when people compared Ayton to Philadelphia's established star. Embiid rejected that comparison publicly, writing, "Don't compare Ayton to me either. I play defense." During a September interview, Embiid also warned that Ayton was about to experience a difficult rookie season. Their first professional meeting arrived on November 19th in Philadelphia. Embiid immediately established the difference between an elite prospect and an established All-NBA center. He finished with 33 points, 17 rebounds, 3 steals, and 1 block as Philadelphia defeated Phoenix 119-114. Ayton produced 17 points and 9 rebounds, but committed 5 fouls while attempting only 1 free throw. Embiid attempted 12 free throws and made 11. Philadelphia outscored Phoenix by 20 points during Embiid's 35 minutes, and the defeat dropped the Suns to 3-13. Phoenix eventually finished 19-63, placing last in the Western Conference. Philadelphia won 51 games, while Embiid became an all-star starter, earned All-NBA, second-team honors, and made the All-Defensive second team. Ayton still averaged 16.3 points and 10.3 rebounds during a productive rookie season, but his championship comparison had arrived far too early. His first matchup with Embiid provided a direct reality check. Dominating college prospects wasn't the same as handling an established professional superstar. Grant free throws. On March 6, 2023, Boston and Cleveland were tied 109-109 with under a second left when Grant Williams was fouled and sent to the line. Donovan Mitchell walked up to him, and Williams looked him dead in the eye, said, "I'm gonna make them both." He missed the first, then he missed the second, grabbed his own rebound, and couldn't get a shot to fall before time expired. The game went to overtime, and Cleveland won it 9-5, taking the game 118-114. Williams actually played well otherwise, scoring 12 points on 4 for 6 shooting and 3 for 5 from 3, but he finished 1 for 4 at the line. Boston had also blown a 14-point lead, getting outscored 28-17 in the fourth quarter. Mitchell, the player Williams guaranteed those free throws against, finished with 40 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists, and went 8 for 8 from the line himself. Cleveland out rebounded Boston 56-43. The clip went viral instantly because there was zero ambiguity, a direct guarantee followed by 2 straight misses and a loss in overtime. It also came during a rough stretch for Boston, their 3rd straight defeat after blowing a 28-point lead against Brooklyn and losing a double overtime game to New York. Williams later leaned into the moment himself when it resurfaced online, but the sequence stayed one of the cleanest examples of a guarantee collapsing within seconds of being made. Lonzo versus Beverly. The Lakers took Lonzo Ball 2nd overall in the 2017 draft after he averaged 14.6 points and 7.6 assists at UCLA, leading the country in assists. His father, LeVar, spent months claiming Lonzo would surpass Steph Curry, and Magic Johnson publicly told Ball he expected his jersey hanging in the rafters someday. Ball's opening night opponent was Patrick Beverly, fresh off an all-defensive first-team selection and known for physical, relentless perimeter defense. Beverly pressured Ball from the opening tip, even knocking him down early to set the tone. Ball finished with 3 points on 1 for 6 shooting, missing both his 2-point attempts, with his only make coming from 3. The Lakers lost 108-92, trailing by as many as 30. Beverly scored 10 points and 3 assists while making Ball a non-factor. After the game, Beverly admitted the performance was intentional, saying he wanted to welcome Ball to the league and pointed directly at the hype LeVar had created, saying, "His dad has put him on a pedestal, so I had to go after him." LeVar fired back by dismissing Beverly entirely. Ball responded with a much better second game, nearly recording a triple-double with 29 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists against Phoenix, proving the talent was real. But his debut stood as proof that none of the hype, the draft position, or the family predictions mattered once an aggressive defender decided to make it personal from tip-off. Jordan versus Dikembe. Denver drafted Dikembe 4th overall in 1991 out of Georgetown, and at 7 feet 2 inches, he was already an elite defensive prospect. On November 23rd of that year, roughly a month into his career, Chicago played Denver, with Michael Jordan entering as the reigning MVP and Finals MVP, coming off a 5-year run leading the league in scoring. Late in a 107-100 Chicago win, Jordan stepped to the free throw line, looked at Dikembe and said, "Hey Dikembe, this one's for you, baby." Then he closed his eyes and made the shot anyway. Jordan finished with 37 points on 15 for 26 shooting, plus 8 assists and 5 rebounds, as Chicago won its 10th straight game to improve to 12-2. Dikembe actually played well, finishing with 16 points, 16 rebounds, and 4 blocks, and he'd go on to average 16.6 points and 12.3 rebounds that season, making the All-Star team and finishing runner-up for Rookie of the Year. That's what makes the moment stand out. Jordan wasn't toying with the struggling rookie. He was doing it to a future Hall of Famer who'd go on to win 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards and finish with 3,289 career blocks, the second most ever. Years later, during the 1997 playoffs, Jordan dunked on Dikembe and gave him his own signature finger wag right back, drawing a technical. But the eyes closed free throw remains the original introduction, a reigning MVP removing his own sight and still making the shot. Who's Jeremy Lin? Jeremy Lin went undrafted in 2010, got waived by Golden State, claimed and waived by Houston, then picked up by New York in December, sleeping on a teammate's couch while unsure if he'd stick. On February 4th, 2012, Mike D'Antoni gave him minutes off the bench, and Lin dropped 25 points and 7 assists in a win. He got his first career start 2 nights later and scored 28, then followed with 23 against Washington. Linsanity was suddenly a national story, except Kobe Bryant hadn't been paying attention. Before facing the Knicks, reporters asked if he'd guard Lin, and Bryant responded, "Jesus Christ, let's not get ahead of ourselves," openly admitting he didn't know much about what Lin had done. That night, Lin dropped 38 points on 13 for 23 shooting, plus 7 assists, 4 rebounds, and 2 steals, and New York won 92-85. Bryant scored 34, but needed 29 shots to get there, going 11 for 29. Lin outscored a 5-time champion and former MVP, while taking 6 fewer shots against one of the league's best defenses. Afterward, Bryant admitted, "I think the biggest surprise to everybody is that everybody was surprised." And when asked what advice he'd give Lin, said he had no idea what to even say to a guy who just dropped 38. Through his first 4 starts, Lin scored 109 total points, the most by anyone in that span since the ABA-NBA merger. And the Lakers game turned him into a global phenomenon overnight. Team USA collapse. The 2004 U.S. Olympic roster still had overwhelming talent, including Tim Duncan, Allen Iverson, LeBron James, D. Wade, and Carmelo Anthony. But the construction was a mess. James, Wade, and Anthony had only 1 NBA season between them. Emeka Okafor hadn't played a single pro game, and the roster had only 2 natural point guards. Before the Olympics even started, Italy beat them 95-78 in an exhibition. Team USA's worst loss since NBA players began competing internationally. Then Puerto Rico opened the Olympics by beating them 92-73, the largest Olympic loss in U.S. men's basketball history at that point, ending a 24-game Olympic winning streak. Carlos Arroyo dropped 24 points while the Americans shot 3 for 24 from 3. The U.S. also nearly blew a 9-point lead to Lithuania in the final minutes and lost. That gave them 2 losses before the knockout round, something that had never happened with NBA players involved. In the semifinals, Argentina's golden generation, led by Manu Ginobili's 29 points, led wire to wire and won 89-81, ending Team USA's bid for gold. The Americans settled for bronze with a 5-3 record, their worst Olympic showing since professionals joined the team. Argentina went on to beat Italy for gold. The failure forced USA Basketball to completely rebuild its approach, hiring Jerry Colangelo and Mike Krzyzewski and committing players to multi-year national team stints, eventually producing the dominant, undefeated 2008 Redeem Team in Beijing. Heat want Boston. Miami and Boston had split 3 straight Eastern Conference Finals matchups between 2020 and 2023, including Miami's stunning comeback from down 3-0 to win Game 7 in Boston the year before. That history gave Miami confidence heading into 2024. Even though the circumstances were completely different, Boston finished 64-18, the best record in basketball, while Miami finished 46-36 and lost Jimmy Butler to a knee injury in the play-in. After beating Chicago to claim the 8th seed, chants of "We want Boston" broke out in the arena. Boston crushed them in Game 1 by 20 points, but Miami answered with a franchise record 23 three-pointers to steal Game 2, 111-101, tying the series. That was Miami's last real moment of the postseason. Boston won Game 3 by 20, holding Miami to 12 first-quarter points. They won Game 4 by 14, with Derek White dropping 38. Then Boston delivered the final blow, winning Game 5 by 34, 118-84, with Miami shooting just 3-4, 29 from 3. Boston closed the series on a combined 68-point margin across 3 straight wins, averaging over 22 points per victory. The Celtics went on to win the NBA championship that year, 16-3 in the playoffs. Miami's history against Boston meant nothing once the roster gap became obvious, as one stolen road game with a record-breaking shooting night couldn't stop 3 straight blowout losses to close it out. Heat championships. On July 9th, 2010, Miami threw a massive celebration at American Airlines Arena to welcome LeBron James, D. Wade, and Chris Bosh before the trio had played a single game together. Asked how many titles they'd win, James started counting. Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, and the crowd erupted. The pressure that created was enormous. Miami started 9-8, but recovered to finish 58-24, sweeping through the East by beating Philadelphia, Boston, and Chicago, all 4 games to 1, to reach the finals against Dallas. Miami took a 2-1 lead, but Dirk Nowitzki hit the game winner in Game 2 after Miami blew a 15-point lead late. Dallas then won 3 straight games to close it out, including Game 6 on Miami's own floor, where James finished with just 21 points after scoring only 8 in Game 4, the fewest of his playoff career at that point. Nowitzki was named Finals MVP, averaging 26 points, while Jason Terry dropped 27 in the clincher. Dallas won the title on Miami's home court, the same building where James had counted championships months earlier. James later called it one of the lowest points of his career, but he returned the following season and won back-to-back titles in 2012 and 2013, eventually reaching 4 straight finals with Miami and winning 2 championships total. 2, not the 7 or 8, the celebration had implied that summer night. Jennings' prediction: Milwaukee entered the 2013 playoffs as the 8th seed with a losing record, 38-44, the only sub-500 team in the entire field. Their first-round opponent was the defending champion Miami Heat, who'd finished 66-16 and ripped off a 27-game winning streak that season, with LeBron James on his way to a 4th MVP. Before the series, Brandon Jennings confidently said, "I see us winning the series in 6, a line that got shortened to Bucks in 6. Miami won Game 1 by 23, with James dropping 27 points on just 11 shots. Jennings managed 26, but the Bucks never threatened. Game 2 got worse, Jennings scoring only 8 points on 3 for 15 shooting as Miami pulled away in the 4th quarter. Miami took Game 3 by 13 to go up 3-0, a deficit no team had ever come back from in NBA history. Game 4 sealed the sweep, with Jennings managing just 3 points on 1 for 7 shooting in the elimination game itself. Miami won all 4 games by a combined 59 points, an average margin near 15 points per contest, and Milwaukee never scored 100 points in the series. Jennings averaged 13.3 points on under 30% shooting for the series. He never played another game for the Bucks, getting shipped to Detroit that summer. Years later, in 2021, Milwaukee actually fell down 2-0 to Phoenix in the final, then won 4 straight to take the title in 6 games, finally making Bucks in 6 come true almost a decade after the original prediction failed completely. Brooks versus LeBron. Memphis entered the 2023 playoffs as the second seed at 51-31, facing a 7th-seeded Lakers team that started the season 2-10 before rebuilding at the deadline. After Memphis evened the series in Game 2 without an injured Morant, Dillon Brooks was asked about guarding LeBron James and said, "I don't care, he's old," adding, "I don't respect no one till they come and give me 40. James was 38 at the time, already the league's all-time leading scorer with 4 championships and 4 MVP awards, while Brooks had never even reached a conference final. Los Angeles responded immediately, opening Game 3 with a 35-9 first quarter, tying the largest first quarter lead in playoff history, and Brooks got ejected for hitting James low. Game 4 got even more painful, with James scoring over Brooks to force overtime and finishing with 22 points and 20 rebounds, becoming the oldest player ever with a 20-20 playoff line. Los Angeles took a 3-1 lead. Memphis survived Game 5, but Game 6 ended everything, a 125-85 blowout. Los Angeles leading by as many as 40 points. Brooks finished the series shooting just 31.2% from the field, averaging 10.5 points, while James averaged 22.2 points, 11.2 rebounds, and 5.2 assists, and closed the series shooting effective as ever. The player demanding 40 points to earn respect got beaten by 40 points in the clincher, and Memphis moved on from Brooks entirely that offseason. LeBron versus Arenas. In Game 6 of the 2006 first-round series, Washington led Cleveland 113-112 in overtime with about 15 seconds left when Gilbert Arenas, an 82% free throw shooter that season, was fouled and sent to the line. LeBron James, just 21 and in his first career playoff series, walked up and told him, "If you miss these free throws, you know who's going to win it." A reference to Damon Jones, a player Arenas had been trash-talking relentlessly from the bench all series. Arenas missed the first free throw, then he missed the second. Cleveland got the ball back after a foul to give, worked the possession, and found Damon Jones open in the corner. Jones, who hadn't played a single second of the game until that moment, caught it and made the shot. Cleveland won 114-113. Arenas missed a potential game winner on the other end, and Washington's season ended right there. James finished the series averaging 35.7 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 5.7 assists, including 45 points in Game 5 and a triple-double in the clincher. 3 of the 6 games in that series were decided by exactly 1 point. Arenas later admitted the moment affected him deeply, even seeking help from a hypnotist afterward to work through what happened. A 21-year-old in his first playoff run had psychologically read one of the league's best scorers perfectly, then watched every part of it play out exactly as predicted. Rockets versus Warriors. Houston spent years building specifically to beat Golden State, trading for Chris Paul, surrounding James Harden with switchable defenders, and general manager Daryl Morey openly called the Warriors an obsession. In 2018, Houston won 65 games, a franchise record, and took Golden State to 7 games in the conference finals before Paul's hamstring injury derailed a 3-2 lead, and the Rockets blew a Game 7 halftime lead by missing 27 straight three-pointers. In 2019, they got another shot in the semifinals, and the series stayed razor-tight through 4 games. Then in Game 5, with the score tied, Kevin Durant went down with a calf injury and never returned. This was Houston's opening. Golden State still won Game 5 without him. Durant sat out Game 6 too, played in Houston, with the Rockets fully healthy and favored. Steph Curry scored 0 points in the entire first half, shooting 0 for 5, yet Golden State still stayed tied 57-57 at the break, thanks to Klay Thompson's 21 points. Curry then exploded for 33 second-half points, all of them after intermission, hitting the go-ahead shots down the stretch as Golden State won 118-113. Harden scored 35 and Paul added 27, but it didn't matter. Houston had the healthy roster, home court, and a Durant-free Warriors team, and still lost because Curry simply flipped a switch after halftime. That summer, Houston traded Paul for Russell Westbrook, and the Harden-era chase of Golden State was effectively over. Kobe-Kyrie challenge. During 2012 USA basketball training camp ahead of the London Olympics, 20-year-old Kyrie Irving, fresh off winning Rookie of the Year with 117 of 120 possible first-place votes, approached 33-year-old Kobe Bryant and challenged him to a one-on-one game for $50,000 going to charity. Bryant had 16 NBA seasons, 5 championships, 2 finals, MVP awards, and 14 All-Star selections at that point. Irving had played 61 career games and never appeared in a playoff game. Kobe laughed off the challenge, telling Irving he'd lock him up defensively, and reminded him how recently he'd been in high school. The one-on-one game never actually happened, but months later, on January 13, 2013, their teams met, and Kobe scored 23 points while guarding Irving for stretches as the Lakers won 113-93. During the fourth quarter, Irving attacked off the dribble, and Kobe blocked his shot outright. Irving later admitted, "I wasn't ready." Their relationship grew from there, with Kobe becoming something of a mentor. After Cleveland completed the historic comeback from down 3-1 to win the 2016 Finals, capped by Irving's own three-pointer over Steph Curry in Game 7, Irving called Kobe from the locker room to share the moment. What started as a bold young player calling out a legend ended with Kobe blocking his shot on the court, followed years later by genuine mutual respect once Irving had actually earned his own championship moment. LeBron-Stevenson feud. Cleveland had already beaten Washington in the first round in both 2006 and 2007, when the teams met again in 2008. After Washington beat Cleveland in a March regular season game, Deshaun Stevenson called LeBron James overrated, even though James was averaging 30 points, 7.9 rebounds, and 7.2 assists that season and had already led Cleveland to the finals. James responded by comparing answering Stevenson to Jay-Z, responding to Soulja Boy, a line that turned the feud into a cultural moment, with Soulja Boy attending Game 3 courtside and Jay-Z recording a freestyle about it. Washington won that game by 36 points behind Stevenson's 19, but Cleveland controlled almost everything else. James opened the series with 32 points in Game 1 and a near triple-double of 30 points, 12 assists, and 9 rebounds in Game 2. He hit the go-ahead layup with seconds left in Game 4 to push Cleveland ahead 3-1. Washington survived Game 5, but Game 6 ended it, James recording a 27-point triple-double with 13 rebounds and 13 assists as Cleveland won by 17. James closed the series, averaging 29.8 points, 9.5 rebounds, and 7.7 assists, while Stevenson averaged around 12 points on 39% shooting. Cleveland eliminated Washington for the third straight postseason. 3 years later, Stevenson and James met again in the 2011 Finals, where Dallas beat Miami, finally giving Stevenson his championship, but it did nothing to change what happened across those 3 consecutive eliminations in Washington. Michael Jordan. Nobody in NBA history demanded more from teammates than Michael Jordan, and the record books prove it. Jordan led the Chicago Bulls to 6 championships, 2 three-peats, and a 72-win season, but the path to those titles wasn't exactly warm and fuzzy. Practice with Jordan was reportedly more intense than actual games. Teammates like Will Perdue described him as someone who constantly tested everyone around him. The most famous moment came during training camp before the 1995-96 season, when Jordan punched Steve Kerr in the face during a scrimmage after Kerr fouled him aggressively. Kerr ended up with a black eye and later confirmed the story in his memoir. Jordan also relentlessly mocked Scott Burrell throughout the 1997-98 season, behavior that was featured heavily in The Last Dance. Bill Cartwright actually had to confront Jordan directly and warn him to stop undermining teammates after Jordan had been mocking veterans. Jordan's leadership was built on fear and pressure, not encouragement. He'd call guys out in film sessions, embarrass them in practice, and use psychological pressure to push anyone he felt wasn't committed enough. Players who were mentally tough earned his trust. Everyone else was just a target. Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant's Mamba mentality wasn't just a slogan. It was a standard he held everyone around him to, and not everyone survived it. Bryant was arriving before dawn and finishing full workouts before teammates even entered the building. His most documented conflict was with Shaq, who played alongside him on the Lakers from 1996 through 2004. Together, they won 3 straight championships from 2000 through 2002. But Bryant believed Shaq relied too much on natural talent and skipped conditioning work. Shaq thought Bryant shot too much and was too selfish. Phil Jackson detailed the dysfunction in his book, The Last Season. And after the Lakers lost the 2004 Finals, Shaq was traded to the Miami Heat. Bryant also turned on role players. He later said Smush Parker shouldn't have been in the NBA, despite Parker starting 162 games alongside him over 2 seasons. Bryant would freeze teammates out offensively if he didn't trust them, and during the 2005 through 2006 season, he averaged 35.4 points per game on a roster he essentially carried alone. Players like Paul Gasol, who matched Bryant's emotional toughness and preparation, eventually thrived and helped him win back-to-back titles in 2009 and 2010. Everyone else struggled to keep up. Draymond Green. Draymond Green is the emotional engine behind the Golden State Warriors dynasty, and he's also the reason one of their most promising young players had to be traded away. On October 5th, 2022, during a Warriors practice, Green punched Jordan Poole in the face. Not a shove, not a scuffle, a full-force right hand that knocked Poole into a wall. TMZ obtained and released the footage on October 7th. This happened just days before Poole signed a 4-year contract extension worth more than $120 million, and just months after Poole helped the Warriors win the 2022 NBA championship. Green stepped away from the team temporarily and was fined by the organization, but wasn't suspended for regular season games. Head coach Steve Kerr later said the team lacked the trust needed to compete for another title. Green himself admitted the punch hurt team chemistry and contributed to the Warriors failing to defend their championship. Poole's production dropped during the 2023 playoff, and he was traded to the Washington Wizards in July 2023. This wasn't an isolated moment either. Green has a long history of technical fouls, ejections, suspensions, opponent kicking during the 2016 playoffs, placing Rudy Gobert in a headlock in 2023 and striking Jusuf Nurkic that same season. 4 championships and one of the most volatile teammates the league has seen. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler has been one of the most competitive and productive players of his generation, but he's also clashed with teammates, coaches, and front offices at nearly every stop of his career. In Chicago, tensions were visible as early as January 2016, when Butler publicly criticized Coach Fred Hoiberg's system after a loss to the New York Knicks. In January 2017, Butler and Wade criticized the team's effort after a loss to Atlanta, which led to Rajon Rondo posting an Instagram message defending younger players the very next day. Chicago traded Butler to Minnesota in June 2017. In Minnesota, he helped end a 14-year playoff drought, but grew frustrated with the work habits of Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. Before the 2018-19 season, Butler requested a trade, returned to practice on October 10, 2018, joined the reserves, beat the starters in a scrimmage, and then gave a nationally televised interview to ESPN's Rachel Nichols discussing internal team issues while still under contract. The Timberwolves traded him to Philadelphia after just 10 games. In Philadelphia, the team went 51-31, but Butler clashed with Coach Brett Brown over offensive structure. He left in a sign and trade to Miami in July 2019. Even in Miami, where he led finals runs in 2020 and 2023, Butler had a heated sideline argument with coach Eric Spoelstra and Udonis Haslem during a March 2022 game against Golden State. Miami suspended him multiple times in January 2025, with one suspension lasting 7 games before trading him to Golden State in February 2025. D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell was selected 2nd overall in the 2015 NBA draft, and by March 2016, he had already created one of the most infamous breaches of teammate trust in league history. During his rookie season with the Los Angeles Lakers, Russell secretly recorded teammate Nick Young on video. In the footage, Young discussed personal matters involving his relationship with singer Iggy Azalea. The video was recorded privately and was never meant to be seen publicly. It leaked online anyway. Young's engagement to Azalea ended later that year. The fallout inside the locker room was severe. Multiple reports stated Russell was isolated by teammates, viewed as untrustworthy, and avoided by veteran players. Reports also stated he ate alone and was treated coldly. Lakers executive Magic Johnson later referenced the incident when discussing Russell's time with the franchise. On June 22, 2017, the Lakers traded Russell to the Brooklyn Nets, 2 years after drafting him. There's no confirmed evidence Russell intentionally distributed the video, but secretly recording a teammate during a private conversation was enough to permanently damage his reputation across the league and accelerate his exit from Los Angeles. Andrew Bynum. Andrew Bynum was drafted 10th overall by the Los Angeles Lakers in the 2005 NBA draft at just 17 years old. Won 2 championships in 2009 and 2010. Made the All-Star team in 2012 with 18.7 points and 11.8 rebounds per game. and then proceeded to never play a meaningful game again because of a combination of injuries and attitude issues that frustrated multiple franchises. Coach Phil Jackson repeatedly criticized his focus and conditioning throughout his Lakers tenure. In the 2011 playoff, Bynum committed a flagrant foul on J.J. Barea and removed his jersey while walking off the court, earning a 5-game suspension. During the 2011 lockout, he said he was considering retirement before 30 because of knee problems, which raised serious questions about his commitment. Philadelphia acquired him in the 4-team Dwight Howard trade in August 2012, built their entire season around him, and he never played a single game after suffering a knee setback while bowling. He then attended public events and changed hairstyles repeatedly while injured, which became a source of open frustration. The Sixers finished 34-48. Cleveland signed him in July 2013. He played 24 games and was suspended indefinitely for conduct detrimental to the team before being traded to Chicago, who waived him immediately. The Pacers gave him one final opportunity that same season. He never played in the NBA again. Latrell Sprewell. Latrell Sprewell was the 24th pick in the 1992 NBA draft, made 4 All-Star teams, earned All-NBA first-team honors in 1994, and became the center of the most notorious player-on-coach incident in league history. Sprewell's volatility was visible long before the defining moment. In 1993, he fought teammate Byron Houston during practice. In 1995, he fought veteran teammate Jerome Kersey during practice and reportedly returned to the facility with a 2x4, with some accounts claiming he threatened to come back with a gun. On December 1st, 1997, Warriors coach P.J. Carlesimo told Sprewell to put a little mustard on his passes during practice in Oakland. Sprewell told Carlesimo to stay away from him. When Carlesimo approached, Sprewell grabbed him by the throat, dragged him backward, and choked him for approximately 7 to 10 seconds. He reportedly threatened to kill Carlesimo during the altercation. Teammates and coaches had to physically separate them. Then, approximately 20 minutes later, Sprewell returned to practice after showering, approached Carlesimo again, and threw a punch that grazed his cheek before staff intervened a second time. The Warriors attempted to terminate the remaining $23.7 million on his contract. The NBA suspended him for 1 full year. After arbitration reinstated the contract, Sprewell still missed 68 games without pay, one of the longest suspensions in league history at that time. He later helped the New York Knicks reach the 1999 finals as an 8th seed, but the Carlesimo incident permanently defined his legacy. Stephon Marbury. Stephon Marbury was the 4th overall pick in the 1996 NBA draft and averaged 19.3 points and 7.6 assists per game for his career, but he never found a team he couldn't eventually wear out. In Minnesota, where he played alongside Kevin Garnett, Marbury became unhappy with the market size and wanted a bigger offensive role. After 2.5 seasons, he forced his way to the New Jersey Nets in 1999. Garnett later acknowledged that Marbury's departure significantly altered Minnesota's direction. Marbury put up strong individual numbers in New Jersey and Phoenix, but his reputation for locker room tension followed him. In 2004, he was traded to the New York Knicks as the expected franchise centerpiece. His relationship with coach Larry Brown collapsed during the 2005 through 2006 season. Brown publicly criticized Marbury's decision-making and defense. Marbury pushed back by questioning Brown's methods and how he treated players. Brown later said Marbury resisted coaching and undermined team cohesion. New York finished 23-59 that season. Marbury then clashed with coach Mike D'Antoni during the 2007 through 2008 season, was removed from the rotation entirely, refused to attend certain team functions, and became increasingly isolated from the organization. He was bought out in 2009. The individual numbers were always there. The team's success never was. Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson was selected 1st overall in the 1996 NBA draft, led the NBA in scoring 4 times, won the 2001 MVP award, made 11 All-Star teams, and finished his career with over 24,000 points. He was also one of the most resistant players to team structure the league has ever seen. Iverson frequently missed practices, treatment sessions, and team meetings during portions of his career. The most famous example came on May 7, 2002, during a press conference after the Philadelphia 76ers were eliminated from the playoff. Iverson responded to questions about his attendance and commitment by saying, "We're talking about practice 12 times in a single press conference. The quote became one of the most replayed clips in sports history and cemented the perception that routine preparation wasn't a priority for him. His relationship with Coach Larry Brown was consistently tense, with Brown publicly criticizing his shot selection, defensive discipline, and practice habits. The two still reached the 2001 NBA Finals together. Iverson led the NBA in usage rate multiple times, which naturally limited touches for teammates. After being traded to Denver in 2006, he adapted reasonably well alongside Carmelo Anthony. In Detroit, he refused to accept a bench role under coach Michael Curry, saying, "I'm no sixth man," and the Pistons were swept in the first round of the 2008-09 playoff. His talent was generational. His willingness to adjust was not. Rick Barry. Rick Barry is the only player in history to lead the NCAA, the ABA, and the NBA in points per game, and he somehow made being that talented feel like a burden for everyone around him. Barry led the Golden State Warriors to the 1975 NBA championship and averaged 29.5 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists in a 4-game sweep of the Washington Bullets to win Finals MVP. Several teammates later said they respected him more than they liked him. Barry held extremely high standards, had the basketball intelligence to back them up, and had very little patience for anyone who didn't meet them. He openly criticized teammates during games for missed defensive assignments, turnovers, and poor shot selection. And his communication style was consistently described as harsh and confrontational by players across both the A, BA, and NBA. The most remarkable on-court display of frustration came during Game 7 of the 1976 Western Conference Finals against the Phoenix Suns. Barry felt his teammates weren't protecting him when Phoenix played him physically. In response, he essentially stopped shooting in the second half, attempting only 2 field goals. Golden State lost 94-86. Barry himself later admitted he was demanding and often hard on teammates. He's even acknowledged that his personality made him difficult to be around. The talent was undeniable. The experience of playing alongside him, based on nearly every account from that era, was something else entirely. Shaq was the most physically dominant center of his generation, won 4 NBA championships, and helped multiple franchises reach the finals. But his time in Los Angeles produced one of the most famous teammate feuds in sports history. Shaq and Kobe Bryant played together on the Lakers from 1996 through 2004 and won 3 consecutive championships in 2000, 2001, and 2002. Despite that, they spent years publicly attacking each other through the media. Bryant accused Shaq of arriving to training camp out of shape. Shaq accused Bryant of being selfish and taking too many shots. The tension escalated through the 2003 through 2004 season and was detailed by Phil Jackson in his book The Last Season. The Lakers lost the 2004 finals to Detroit and traded Shaq to Miami that July. Shaq also delayed toe surgery before the 2002 through 2003 season and said, "I got hurt on company time, so I'll heal on company time," missing the beginning of the year and frustrating teammates and coaches. After joining the Phoenix Suns in 2008, he publicly stated he was actually on a team again, which was widely interpreted as a shot at his former Miami teammates. Shaq was also known for regularly mocking players like Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee in public interviews. Charismatic and dominant, but also consistently one of the loudest sources of internal conflict wherever he played. Jim Jackson. Jim Jackson was selected 4th overall in the 1992 NBA draft, averaged 25.7 points per game in the 1994 through 95 season, made the 1995 All-Star team, and still became one of the most referenced examples of locker room dysfunction in NBA history. Dallas also drafted Jamal Mashburn in 1993 and Jason Kidd in 1994, forming the group known as the 3Js, a young core expected to rebuild the franchise into a contender. Jackson held out for 54 games as a rookie due to a contract dispute, creating tension with the organization before he'd proven anything on the court. Reports then emerged that Jackson and Kidd had a deeply strained relationship, with media coverage frequently referencing a rumored rivalry connected to singer Toni Braxton, though Braxton publicly denied being the cause of any conflict. Regardless of the exact source, the relationship between the two was widely documented as broken. The Mavericks never won a playoff series with the trio intact. Dallas traded Kidd in December 1996 and dealt Jackson to New Jersey in 1997. The 3Js became one of the most commonly cited examples of talent failing to produce results because of internal chemistry problems, Jackson played for 12 different NBA franchises, which was an NBA record at the time of his retirement, and scored over 14,000 career points. The individual ability was never the issue. Kwame Brown became the first high school player ever selected, first overall in the NBA draft, when the Washington Wizards, led by Michael Jordan as a player and team executive, chose him in 2001. Brown entered the league at 18 years old and immediately became a target of Jordan's relentless verbal pressure during practices. Multiple former players and reports confirmed that Jordan regularly berated Brown, challenged his toughness, and physically dominated him in scrimmages. Brown later stated that Jordan constantly cursed at him and treated every mistake as a personal failure. As a rookie, Brown averaged 4.5 points and 3.5 rebounds in 57 games. During his time in Washington, he clashed publicly with coach Eddie Jordan and reportedly feuded with teammate Gilbert Arenas. In 2005, the Wizards suspended Brown for the final regular season game after he refused to report to the bench over frustration with his role. He declined a 5-year, $30 million extension from Washington and entered free agency. The Lakers acquired him in 2005, and he became a starting center alongside Kobe Bryant. Bryant later said that playing with Brown and other limited supporting players forced him to score at historic levels, which was not intended as a compliment. Brown played 12 NBA seasons and averaged 6.6 points and 5.5 rebounds. The talent gap between what was expected at pick 1 overall and what he delivered made him a consistent source of frustration for every team he played for. Steve Francis was drafted 2nd overall in 1999 and became a 3-time All-Star with the Houston Rockets, but he created problems before he played a single NBA game. After being drafted by the Vancouver Grizzlies, Francis refused to report to the team, citing concerns about distance from family, endorsement opportunities, and lifestyle preferences. The Grizzlies traded him to Houston, where he eventually put up strong numbers but clashed repeatedly with coaches over offensive control and the freedom to run his own game. When Yao Ming joined the Rockets in 2002, tensions developed over how to balance touches and offensive priorities between two players who both needed significant usage. Francis was traded to the Orlando Magic in 2004. In Orlando, his relationship with the organization deteriorated after the team drafted Jameer Nelson and shifted its focus toward a younger core built around Dwight Howard. Francis objected to coming off the bench and was suspended in 2006 for conduct detrimental to the team after leaving the bench during a game. He was then traded to the New York Knicks, where injuries and conditioning decline limited his effectiveness. Francis averaged 18.1 points, 6 assists, and 5.6 rebounds. For his career, numbers that reflect genuine talent, but his consistent pattern of prioritizing personal control over organizational needs made roster building significantly harder for every team that tried to build around him. Smush Parker went undrafted in 2002 and joined the Los Angeles Lakers in 2005 on a minimum contract. He started all 82 games during the 2005 through 2006 season and averaged 11.5 points, 3.7 assists, and 1.6 steals. He started 162 consecutive games alongside Kobe Bryant over 2 seasons, which is a remarkable run for a player who wasn't even drafted. Despite that production, Bryant later said Parker shouldn't have been in the NBA and called him his worst teammate. Bryant claimed Parker became full of himself after receiving significant playing time and began believing he was a better player than he actually was. Parker responded publicly, saying Bryant told him he wasn't allowed to speak to him until Parker had more accomplishments, and that playing alongside Bryant was an overrated experience. Phil Jackson also documented issues with Parker's decision-making and defensive consistency during those seasons in his own accounts of that Lakers era. The mutual hostility between a superstar and a minimum contract starter created real tension in a locker room that was already lacking championship-level depth. Parker left the Lakers in 2007 and was out of the NBA entirely by 2008. His reputation as a difficult teammate came not from the typical locker room misconduct, but from a very public falling out with one of the most demanding players in NBA history, Ricky Davis. Ricky Davis averaged 20 points per game in the 2001 through 2002 season and 15.3 for his career, but he built a reputation that had nothing to do with scoring efficiency. On March 16, 2003, while playing for the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Utah Jazz, Davis entered the final seconds of a comfortable Cleveland win, needing 1 rebound To complete a triple-double, he had 28 points and 9 assists. With the game already decided, Davis intentionally shot at his own basket to try to grab the rebound and reach 10. The NBA ruled the attempt invalid because players must shoot at the opponent's basket. Davis finished with 9 rebounds and no triple-double. Utah Jazz players were furious. Deshaun Stevenson shoved Davis immediately. Jazz coach Jerry Sloan publicly called the play disrespectful. The moment became one of the most referenced examples of individual stat chasing in NBA history. The Cavaliers traded Davis to the Boston Celtics in December 2003. Celtics president Danny Ainge later expressed concern about Davis's influence on younger players. Coach Doc Rivers suspended Davis for 1 game during the 2004 through 2005 season for conduct detrimental to the team. The Celtics traded him to the Minnesota Timberwolves in January 2006, and Minnesota suspended him for 1 game in March 2006 after he missed a team flight. 2 organizations, 2 suspensions, 1 intentional shot at the wrong basket. The career statistics were real. The reputation was earned separately. Ron Artest won the 2004 Defensive Player of the Year award and was one of the best perimeter defenders of his era. But his impact on teammates and team stability went far beyond anything that shows up in a box score. On November 19, 2004, the Indiana Pacers played the Detroit Pistons, and Artest ended up at the center of the biggest brawl in NBA history, involving players from both teams and fans inside the arena. Artest was suspended for the remainder of the season, missing 73 regular season games and 13 playoff games. That suspension didn't just affect him, it effectively ended Indiana's championship window. The Pacers had reached the Eastern Conference Finals less than 2 years earlier. In December 2005, while still with Indiana, Artest asked the organization for time off during the season to promote his rap album. The request was widely viewed as a major distraction. Artest also had emotional volatility throughout his career, creating uncertainty for coaches and teammates about his availability and focus at various points. During his time with the Sacramento Kings, he publicly requested trades and expressed frustration with management. Even after joining the Los Angeles Lakers and helping them win the 2010 championship, his unpredictability remained a consistent topic. He later legally changed his name to Metta World Peace and then Metta Sandiford Artest. His talent was genuine and well documented. His effect on team stability was equally well documented and far less positive. Antoine Walker made 3 All-Star teams, scored more than 16,000 career points, and won an NBA championship with the Miami Heat in 2006, but he also became one of the most frequently criticized players in the league for shot selection and ball dominance that consistently frustrated teammates and coaches. Walker attempted 801 three-pointers during the 2001 through 2002 season and made 266 of them at 33.2%. For a power forward in the early 2000s, that volume was almost unheard of. When asked why he kept shooting threes, Walker responded, "Because there are no fours." The quote became one of the most famous lines in NBA history and perfectly summarized the approach that made him simultaneously entertaining and maddening. Walker functioned as a point forward and handled the ball extensively, often creating complicated possessions and drawing criticism from coaches who felt he overcomplicated the offense. He was a central figure on the Boston Celtics teams led by Paul Pierce that reached the Eastern Conference Finals in 2002. But inconsistency and shot selection remained persistent criticisms throughout his time in Boston. The Celtics traded him twice during his career. He also played for the Dallas Mavericks, Atlanta Hawks, and Miami Heat. His inclusion here isn't about locker room fights or suspensions. It's about a playing style built around decisions that his coaches and teammates frequently disagreed with game after game, season after season. Gilbert Arenas. Gilbert Arenas was drafted 31st overall in the 2001 NBA draft, became a 3-time All-Star with the Washington Wizards, and averaged over 25 points per game at his peak. He was also responsible for one of the most alarming locker room incidents in league history. On December 24, 2009, Arenas and teammate Javaris Crittenton argued over a gambling debt during a car game on the Wizards charter flight. When the team arrived at Verizon Center, Arenas placed multiple unloaded firearms near Crittenton's locker and reportedly told him to pick one. Crittenton then produced his own loaded firearm. No shots were fired. but two teammates had drawn guns over a card game inside an NBA facility. On January 6, 2010, Commissioner David Stern suspended Arenas indefinitely without pay. On January 27, both Arenas and Crittenton were suspended for the remainder of the season. Arenas later pleaded guilty to carrying an unlicensed pistol in Washington, D.C., and was sentenced to probation and 30 days in a halfway house. During the investigation, he mockingly pretended to fire finger guns during pre-game introductions, which further damaged his standing with both the league and his own teammates. Before the incident, Arenas was the face of the Wizards franchise. He was never selected to another All-Star game after it, bringing firearms into an NBA locker room and turning a gambling dispute into a criminal investigation effectively ended his prime and defined his legacy as a teammate. Rafer Alston, known as Skip to My Lou, built his reputation as a New York streetball legend before entering the NBA in 1998 and went on to play for Milwaukee, Toronto, Miami, Houston, Orlando, and New Jersey across his career. His talent as a point guard was real, but so was his volatility. During the 2006 playoffs with the Houston Rockets, Alston was suspended for Game 5 of the first-round series against the Dallas Mavericks after striking teammate Tracy McGrady during a practice altercation, according to multiple reports from that period. Hitting a teammate during a playoff run with championship expectations attached to the roster is the kind of moment that permanently changes how an organization views a player. In August 2007, Alston was arrested in Houston on misdemeanor assault and public intoxication charge. Later that same month, he was arrested again in New York during a nightclub incident. In 2008, he was charged with driving while intoxicated. In Orlando, Alston played a key role in helping the Magic reach the 2009 NBA Finals, then was unexpectedly replaced by Jameer Nelson once the finals began. Reports indicated he was unhappy with the decision, and his relationship with the organization deteriorated significantly. He was traded the following season, a starting point guard with genuine court vision and scoring ability, but a history of legal trouble, emotional outbursts, and teammate conflicts that made stability nearly impossible everywhere he played. DeMarcus Cousins. DeMarcus Cousins was drafted 5th overall by the Sacramento Kings in 2010, made 4 consecutive All-Star teams from 2015 through 2018, and averaged 21.1 points and 10.8 rebounds during his 7 seasons with Sacramento, all without ever making the playoffs once. The Kings never reached the postseason during his entire tenure. Cousins clashed with 6 different Sacramento head coaches: Paul Westphal, Keith Smart, Michael Malone, Tyrone Corbin, George Karl, and Dave George. In 2011, Coach Paul Westphal told reporters Cousins had demanded a trade after being benched. Sacramento suspended him indefinitely for conduct detrimental to the team before reinstating him. In 2015, reports surfaced that George Karl actively wanted the Kings to move on from Cousins, creating another major internal fracture. Cousins led the NBA in technical fouls multiple times and was suspended repeatedly for accumulating the league's threshold. His visible frustration with teammates after missed passes, defensive breakdown, and turnovers was a constant throughout his Sacramento year. Teammates and coaches frequently praised his generosity off the court and his basketball intelligence, but the on-court emotional outbursts were equally consistent. After being traded to New Orleans in 2017, he formed an elite frontcourt alongside Anthony Davis before suffering a torn Achilles in January 2018 that fundamentally changed the rest of his career. 7 seasons of all-star production, 0 playoff appearances, and more coaching conflicts than almost any star player of his era. Level 1. Scrub. Johnny Davis came in with top 10 expectations, but after more than 100 games, his production's been stuck in neutral, under 4 points a game, under 30% from deep, and barely over 10 minutes per night. It's been 3 seasons, and he still hasn't cracked the rotation. The tools that made him a college standout haven't translated to NBA spacing, and that's been the story so far. Jerome Robinson was another lottery pick who couldn't get it going. He had a smooth jumper in the G League, but it never clicked at the next level. In over 100 games, he averaged 4 points, shot 36% from the field, and hovered near 30% from 3. Teams gave him looks, but his physical tools didn't match what modern guards need, and his impact never caught up. R.J. Hampton had more leeway, bouncing around a bit with a better scoring average than some others in this group, but still didn't break through. His 6 to 7 points per game across 3 seasons haven't been enough to lock down a real role, whether it was shot selection, defensive concerns, or lack of playmaking, he stayed in that tweener spot, a guard who didn't give enough at either end. Kobe Buffkin is a little newer to the list, but he's here for now. First round pick, big potential, but his first year didn't show much. Less than 6 points a game, under 30 games played, and nothing to convince coaches to give him more. He's still got time, but that rookie season didn't scream future starter. Aaron Harrison had a cup of coffee in the league before heading overseas. Second round pick or not, he didn't stick. He never really built out a shooting profile, never locked in on defense, and didn't bring anything unique to separate himself from a deep bench crowd. Terrence Ferguson had some hops and came in with hype, but his game never developed. Shooting was inconsistent, his physicality didn't hold up, and he struggled with fit. The Thunder tried giving him real minutes, but he never proved he could do more than stand in the corner and hope for an open three. RJ Hunter falls into that same bucket. Another first-round guy, but he never got traction. Between physical limitations and inconsistent shot making, he couldn't make himself a valuable piece. Once he lost his spot in Boston, he bounced around, but never found a team that saw him as a real piece of the puzzle. Alexei Shved was a more interesting case. He actually scored more than most of this group, but his efficiency tanked the whole effort. Under 37% from the field, barely cracking 30 from deep, and a shaky fit all around. He had some flashes, but most of his success came overseas. In the NBA, his style didn't translate. Chris Clemens could shoot it in theory, but at 5'9", he just didn't have the size to guard wings or consistently score on them either. He had a few quick bursts, but was never trusted with real minutes. His height worked against him in every rotation conversation, and he couldn't overcome it with shooting alone. Zaire Smith's story's a lot sadder. Drafted mid-first round, then hit by a major injury that totally threw off his development. Timing, conditioning, confidence, all reset. When he did come back, the game had already moved on. Teams didn't see the upside anymore, and he didn't get another real shot. Malachi Richardson had one of the steeper drop-offs. Drafted in the early 20s, but never averaged more than 3 points. His shooting never stabilized, and teams moved on quickly. The shooting guard position's unforgiving. If you can't space the floor or defend consistently, there's not much left for you to do. Jordan Adams dealt with a similar fate, another first-rounder who got hurt early and couldn't recover. With limited minutes and production, he faded from relevance fast. When a guy can't stay healthy, coaches stop building around them. And without consistency, he never had the chance to evolve into a reliable two-guard. So yeah, the scrub level isn't just about bad numbers. It's about unrealized potential, missed development windows, and the gap between college dominance or overseas hype and NBA reality. Some were victims of injuries, others just didn't have the right tools for the league. But for every player here, the result's the same. No real impact at the shooting guard spot, no lasting presence in a team's core, and no significant minutes when it mattered. This tier's packed with names that once got fans excited, but over time, just couldn't hang. Level 2. Role player. Seth Curry is probably the poster child for this tier. He's not the guy running the show, but his shooting is a serious asset. Over 500 regular season games, he's averaged right around 10 points with one of the best three-point percentages in the league, over 43%. His role has stayed consistent across multiple teams. When he's on the floor, spacing improves, defenders have to chase him, and offenses move easier. He doesn't offer much in size or defense, but he's kept a job because he does what he does incredibly well: shoot. Alec Burks fits perfectly here too. He's played for 8 different teams over more than a decade, which pretty much defines a journeyman. But that's not a knock. His 10 points a game on average, solid rebounding for his size, and consistent effort keep him in rotation. He's not flashy, but he can get hot, give solid bench minutes, and even start when needed. His three-point shootings come a long way too, which makes him even more useful in today's game. Lonnie Walker is still carving out his identity, but right now, he's right at home in this tier. He scores in bunches when given minutes, averages about 10 points per game, and has shown flashes of more, just not consistently. He's athletic, has some shot-making ability, and if he locks in defensively, he could keep pushing upward. But until he grabs a starting role full-time, his best fit still is a second-unit energy guy. Ben McLemore was once drafted to be much more, but over time, his scoring settled into that 9 to 10 point range, and his role became more specialized. He had 1 or 2 early seasons with more minutes and volume, but as his teams changed, so did his spot in the hierarchy. He still brought shooting and athleticism off the bench and gave teams reliable depth at the 2. Garrett Temple isn't giving you 15 points a night. He's not even giving you 10, but somehow He stuck in the league for over 15 seasons. That says something. His values was never about raw stats. He played smart, defended without fouling, made open shots when they came, and didn't make mistakes. Coaches love that. He's basically been a walking break glass in case of injury guy, and there's real value in that at the NBA level. Iman Shumpert never had big-time scoring averages either, but his calling card was defense. He could guard wings, switch across positions, and bring energy off the bench. His offense was serviceable enough to stay on the floor. Across 10 seasons, his numbers stayed around 7 points a game, but that doesn't tell the story. He helped anchor bench units, especially in his early years, and made rosters better by doing little things most fans don't see. Justin Holiday brought more of a shooter's profile. He bounced around, but found roles because he can knock down threes and defend a bit on the perimeter. He's had stretches with more minutes, but mostly, he's been a guy who fits next to stars. If a team needs floor spacing without giving up too much on defense, Holiday makes sense. He's not dominant, but he's dependable. Damian Lee is another player who isn't chasing 20-point nights, but can hit shots and move the ball. He's found a place by staying ready, defending with effort, and making open threes. Austin Rivers has played just about every role, from starter to mop-up guy. What he's done best is fill whatever need his team has in the moment. That versatility, playing both guard spots, defending up or down, hitting shots, makes him a strong role player. He's not consistent enough to be a starter full-time, but he's been valuable wherever he's gone. DeAnthony Melton gets in passing lanes, makes smart rotations, and knocks down open shots. He doesn't need the ball to make an impact, which is perfect for a supporting guard. He's had chances to start, but even in bench roles, he's left a mark. Whether it's deflections, fast break finishes, or corner threes, he does the little stuff that helps win games. Langston Galloway spent his best years as a backup, known for hitting threes and not turning the ball over. He didn't blow anyone away with athleticism or flash, but when coaches needed a guard who wouldn't mess things up, he was a safe option. His shooting gave him value, and his professionalism kept him in the league longer than most expected. Terrence Ross is the guy who can swing a game when he gets hot. He's been a sixth man, a starter, and everything in between. His scoring touch is real, even if it comes in streaks. When he's cooking, he looks like a top scorer, but his defense and consistency have always held him back from climbing higher. Still, having that type of scoring punch on the bench is a luxury most teams love. He fits the role player mold because he doesn't drive the bus, but he can definitely help it speed up. This tier is full of guys who've carved out careers by being dependable. They don't dominate the headline, but they keep rotations from falling apart. They make open shots, stay within the game plan, and keep coaches from pulling their hair out. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, level 3, starter. Josh Hart is the perfect example of this type of player. On a Knicks team, powered by Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, Hart does just about everything else. He started all 77 games last season and averaged almost 14 points, close to 10 rebounds, and nearly 6 assists. Hart is a glue guy in the starting lineup and brings energy every night without needing the spotlight. Danny Green built a long career by doing his job on some of the league's best teams. He's one of the few players to win titles with 3 different franchises: San Antonio, Toronto, and Los Angeles. He started most of those playoff runs because he could hit open threes and defend wings. With career averages of almost 9 points and over 1,500 made three-pointers, his value was never about being flashy. Kevin Huerter started his career in Atlanta next to Trae Young, then took on a similar role with Sacramento and later Chicago. He's a consistent shooter, averaging just under 12 points per game, with career percentages around 44 from the field and 38 from 3. He doesn't command the offense, but he helps it flow by spacing the floor and making quick decisions. He's played over 350 games as a starter, which shows teams trust him to do his job without needing to dominate the ball. Quentin Grimes has stepped into a starting role and made the most of it. With Philadelphia, he's played around stars like Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Last season, he averaged almost 15 points per game while shooting close to 40% from deep. He rebounds, defends, and brings solid off-ball movement. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has been doing this for years. He's played with LeBron James, Nikola Jokic, and now helps anchor the backcourt in Memphis. His averages of around 11 points and solid three-point shooting have made him a reliable starter. His 2 championships came from playing next to stars, while knowing his role. Eric Gordon has transitioned from being a lead scorer to a more supportive role, but he's still a starter in many lineups. With teams like Houston, Phoenix, and others, He's played next to superstars and provided shooting, experience, and floor spacing. His career three-point percentage is solid, and his ability to hit shots off the catch makes him valuable, even without high usage. He isn't a top option, but he stays ready and contributes within the system. Josh Richardson is another guard who has been trusted to start on multiple teams. He's played next to top-tier players like Jimmy Butler and held his own as a defender and shooter. His best seasons came when he could space the floor, guard multiple positions, and keep the offense moving without needing the ball. Gary Harris found his niche in Denver, playing alongside Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. He had one season scoring over 15 points per game, but his real value came from defense and shooting. Injuries limited his later production, but he still starts games and gives quality minutes. His understanding of spacing and ability to hit threes makes him a solid fit next to star players who need room to operate. Thabo Sefolosha was never a scorer, but his defense made him a regular starter on good teams. Playing with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, his job was to lock down perimeter scorers and stay out of the way offensively. He averaged under 6 points per game, but that didn't matter. Wesley Matthews has made a career out of spacing the floor and defending. He's made nearly 2,000 threes in almost 1,000 games. He's played with stars like Dirk Nowitzki, Damian Lillard, and Giannis. He doesn't create much off the dribble, but he moves well without the ball and hits open looks. Grayson Allen is the kind of player who slots in perfectly next to stars. With the Suns, and previously with the Bucks, he started plenty of games and hit over 40% from deep. He spaces the floor, moves without the ball, and gives just enough effort on defense to hold his own. He's not a volume scorer, but he gives his stars breathing room. Colin Sexton might be the highest scorer on this list. He averaged over 24 points during his peak in Cleveland, but he still fits here because he's never been the face of a true contender. In Utah, and now Charlotte, he plays a big role, but he's not the franchise guy. He starts, scores efficiently, and pushes the pace, but he supports other stars rather than leading the show. This group may not fill highlight reels, but they fill the starting lineups that keep teams running. Level 4, All-Star, Zach LaVine, came into the league after being drafted 13th overall by Minnesota in 2014. He's 6 feet 5 inches tall, weighs about 200 pounds, and played just one season at UCLA before going pro. In over 650 games, he's averaged about 20 points, 8 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 4 assists. With 2 All-Star appearances and nearly 47% shooting from the field, LaVine's built a strong resume as a scorer without crossing into long-term dominance. Brandon Roy was taken 6th overall in the 2006 draft, also by Minnesota, but he made his name in Portland. He stood 6 feet 6 inches and weighed 215 pounds. In just 326 games, he averaged 18.8 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 4.7 assists. Roy made the All-Star team 3 times, but his career got cut short by injuries. In 2008, he scored 52 points in a single game while shooting efficiently and recording 0 turnovers. Even with that peak, his career didn't have the length to put him in legendary territory. Bradley Beal was drafted 3rd overall in 2012 by Washington. He's a 3-time All-Star and had a season where he averaged 31.3 points, finishing 2nd in the league in scoring. He became 2nd all-time in total points for the Washington franchise, passing 15,000. While the numbers are impressive, Beal still fits better in the All-Star tier than among legends. Latrell Sprewell was selected 24th overall by Golden State in 1992. He stood 6 feet 5 inches and weighed 195 pounds. Across 913 games, he averaged 18.3 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 4 assists. He made the All-Star team 4 times and posted solid numbers, but his shooting percentage stayed around 42.5%. A consistent presence, but not one that ever reached legendary accolades, Kyle Korver may be the most specialized player on this list. He made one All-Star team and became famous for leading the league in three-point percentage in 2009, shooting 53.6% from beyond the arc. While he mostly played as a small forward, his role as a shooting guard in several seasons qualifies him here. Korver's long career and elite shooting make him memorable, but one All-Star nod keeps him grounded at this level. Eddie Jones went 10th overall in 1994, drafted by the Lakers. He's a 3-time All-Star with career totals that include over 14,150 points, averaging about 14.8 per game. Known for playing both ends of the court, Jones filled the two-way role well. Still, without deep playoff runs or iconic peaks, he remains in the All-Star range. Rip Hamilton carved out his place during the early 2000s. He made the All-Star game 3 times, from 2003 to 2005. He built his game on off-ball motion and mid-range accuracy. As a lead scorer on a title-winning team, he played a key part, but his All-Star count and stats line him up squarely in this 4th level. Allen Houston entered the league as the 11th overall pick in 1993. Drafted by Detroit, he played 839 regular season games and averaged 17.3 points, 2.9 rebounds, and 2.4 assists. A 2-time All-Star, Houston had a smooth scoring touch and played a big role in New York's playoff runs, but injuries and a quieter second half of his career held him back from legendary status. Percy Hawkins made one All-Star team in 1993. His career scoring average was 14.7 points per game, and he totaled over 14,500 points. His game leaned toward shooting and efficiency. With only one All-Star appearance and no massive scoring seasons, he fits cleanly into this group. World B. Free played 886 games and averaged 20.3 points, 2.7 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. Despite that scoring punch, he made only one All-Star team. That scoring average is impressive, but the limited accolades and team success keep him out of the top tiers. Tyler Hero was drafted 13th overall in 2019 by Miami. He won 6th Man of the Year in 2022 and became an All-Star in 2025. He's still early in his career, but as of now, one All-Star selection puts him in this tier, with time left to move up. Jeff Hornacek played for 14 seasons and appeared in 1,077 games. He averaged 14.5 points, 4.9 assists, and 3.4 rebounds. He made the All-Star team once and was best known as a reliable secondary scorer and strong shooter. Hornacek played his role well, but with just one All-Star nod, he's more of a top-tier role player than a legend. This level brings together players who clearly had All-Star level talent, but didn't stay at the top long enough or perform at a historic level to reach legendary status, although some of these guys still have time to move up the ranks. Level 5, Superstar. Devin Booker was taken 13th overall in 2015 by the Phoenix Suns. He's made 4 All-Star teams and was named to the All-NBA First Team in 2022, then added another All-NBA honor in 2024 with a 3rd team selection. Booker's averaged about 24.5 points, 5.2 assists, and 4 rebounds per game. In one game, he scored 70 points, making him one of the youngest to ever do that. With that kind of scoring and recognition, he checks every box at this level. Manu played over 1,000 regular season games and averaged 13.3 points, 3.8 assists, and 3.5 rebounds. He made 2 All-Star teams in 2005 and 2011 and was named to the All-NBA 3rd team twice. He also won 4 championships with the Spurs in 2003, 2005, 2007, and 2014. On top of that, he won the 6th Man of the Year in 2008. Even with a lower scoring average, his awards and team success put him in the superstar group. Donovan Mitchell has been to 6 All-Star games and was named to the All-NBA First Team in 2025. He also earned 2nd team honors earlier in his career. His regular season average sits around 24.8 points, 4.7 assists, and 4.3 rebounds. In one game, Mitchell scored 71 points and added double-digit assists, breaking his team's franchise record. With consistent elite numbers and honors, Mitchell's career has earned him the superstar title. Gail Goodrich played in over 1,030 games and posted averages of 18.6 points, 4.7 assists, and 3.2 rebounds. He made 5 All-Star appearances and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1996. His consistency, recognition, and Hall of Fame status put him right into this 5th level. Joe Johnson got selected to 7 All-Star games between 2007 and 2014 and was named to the All-NBA 3rd team in 2010. He scored more than 20,000 points in his career, finishing with around 20,407. He brought consistent production for years and stayed relevant through multiple eras, which solidifies his standing among superstars. Earl Monroe was drafted 2nd overall in 1967 and became a 4-time All-Star. He played over 1,000 games and won a championship in 1973 with the Knicks. He had a career field goal percentage of 46.4%. Monroe played college ball at Winston-Salem State and had both his jersey numbers retired by the Bullets and the Knicks. With Hall of Fame honors and iconic moments, his resume lands right in superstar territory. David Thompson was the first overall pick in 1975. He averaged 22.1 points, 3.8 rebounds, and 3.2 assists. In his combined NBA and ABA career, he scored at least 20 points per game in 6 straight seasons. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1996 and had an elite college career at North Carolina State. His high-level play across multiple leagues and sustained scoring run earned him a clear place at this level. Joe Dumars spent 14 seasons with the Detroit Pistons. He was a 6-time All-Star, a 3-time All-NBA selection, and made the All-Defensive Team 5 times. Dumars won championships in 1989 and 1990, and he was named Finals MVP in 1989 after averaging 27.3 points per game in that series. With career averages of 16.1 points and major accolades, Dumars fits right into this 5th tier. Hal Greer played 15 seasons, primarily for the Nationals and the 76ers, logging over 1,120 games. He averaged 19.2 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. Greer made 10 All-Star appearances and was named to the All-NBA second team 7 times. He scored 21,586 points in his career and won a title in 1967. With that combination of durability, skill, and recognition, he's a lock for superstar status. Bill Sharman played for the Celtics and was an 8-time All-Star. He made the All-NBA first team 4 times and the second team 3 times. Sharman won 4 championships as a player and averaged 17.8 points with 3 assists per game. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame twice, once as a player in 1976 and again as a coach in 2004. Only a few people in basketball history can say that. That legacy cements him right at this level. These 10 players combined accolades, All-Star appearances, titles, and records to climb past the All-Star label into the superstar category. Their careers didn't just shine, they stayed bright across years, eras, and teams, all while collecting the honors that prove it. Level 6, legend. At this level, we're not just talking about talented players, we're talking about shooting guards who carved out their own chapters in NBA history. These are the ones who dominated with elite skill, did it for a long time, and changed the way the game looks from the 2 spot. James Harden's career is like a stat sheet that's been doing cardio. He leads all shooting guards in assists with over 6,000. That alone tells you he didn't just chuck up shots. He ran the whole show. And the wild part, he did it while averaging nearly 30 points a game at his peak. When a guy is in the same company as LeBron James and Michael Jordan for combining scoring, passing, and rebounding at high levels, he's not just padding stats, he's bending the rules of what a shooting guard is supposed to be. And even deep into his career, he's still putting up numbers like the calculators jammed. D-Wade wasn't just flashy dunks in big games. He had a complete toolkit. The guy led the league in scoring one year and ended up with over 23,000 career points. And that finals performance in 2006, you won't hear about it here, but let's just say he got that trophy for a reason. 13 All-Star nods and 3 championships speak loud enough. And defensively, he's got more blocks than any player under 6'5". He wasn't just a scorer. He was a relentless two-way force who knew how to close games on both ends. Jerry West basically built the blueprint for the modern shooting guard. He dropped over 25,000 points before the three-point line even existed, 14 All-Star appearances, a scoring title, and even led the league in assists at one point. His nickname was Mr. Clutch for a reason, and the man literally inspired the league's logo. His game wasn't just ahead of his time, it shaped what followed. If you're making a level called legend, you can't do it without him. George Gervin didn't just score, he glided. He's one of the smoothest offensive players ever, and he made it look easy. 4 scoring titles, 9 All-Star games. That finger roll is still showing up in highlight montages decades later. He averaged more than 25 points per game across over a decade of dominance. The Iceman didn't need theatrics to dominate, he just kept getting buckets, like it was a formality. Clyde Drexler brought a different flavor to the table. Bigger frame, more athleticism, and the versatility to match. He had seasons averaging over 20 points, 6 boards, and 5 assists. That's guard production with small forward tools. He made his name with Portland and cemented it with Houston. A Hall of Famer with a 15-year career, he could slash, pass, and rebound. He was the Swiss Army knife of the shooting guard world, just with way more dunks. Reggie Miller was the guy you didn't want to see with the ball in the fourth quarter. over 25,000 points in his career, and more than 2,500 threes before most players even realized you could win games from behind the arc. He lived beyond the line and did it for nearly 2 decades. He wasn't just a shooter, he was a problem, and he didn't shy away from the big moments, ever. Allen Iverson may not have looked like a prototypical shooting guard, but he sure played like one. First overall pick, league MVP, 4 scoring titles, and 11 All-Star games. Despite standing just 6 feet tall, he was a one-man offensive avalanche. He took a beating and kept scoring, often dragging his team along for the ride. No one questioned his toughness or his influence. He redefined how smaller guards attacked and proved you didn't need size to own a game. Tracy McGrady was one of the most naturally gifted players the league's ever seen. 6'8", smooth jumper, and a handle that didn't belong on someone that tall. 2 scoring titles, 7 All-Star appearances, and 7 All-NBA selections tell the story. At his peak, he averaged over 30 points a game and did it without needing a ton of help. Injuries shortened his reign, but when he was on, he was a walking highlight who made defenses look like practice cones. Vince Carter dunked his way into legend status, then quietly reinvented himself to stick around longer than anyone expected. 22 seasons, that's 4 decades of NBA basketball. He ended with over 25,000 points and transformed from high flyer to respected veteran. And the thing is, he didn't just hang on, he adapted. He hit big shots, became a shooter, and mentored younger players while staying effective. That's rare. Ray Allen could shoot the lights out in an empty gym or with 20,000 people screaming at him. 2-time champion, 10-time All-Star, and for a long time, the all-time leader in threes. He combined beautiful shooting mechanics with elite conditioning, and he did it for over a decade. But he wasn't just a shooter. He scored nearly 19 points a game, over 1,300 appearances. His game aged like a fine jump shot. Sam Jones might not have modern numbers, but the man has 10 rings. 10. Nearly 18 points a game in an era that didn't have much pace or spacing, and he was known for deadly bank shots and consistent scoring. He didn't just ride coattails, he was a key piece on those dominant Boston teams. Pistol Pete Maravich was creativity in sneakers. He averaged more than 24 points per game and led the league in scoring 1 year without ever having the luxury of the three-point line. 5 All-Star selections, ridiculous passing, and handles that belong in slow-motion highlight reels. He didn't just entertain, he expanded what a guard could be. He made the impossible look regular. Klay Thompson brings elite efficiency and a cold-blooded shot. Over 41% from 3 for his career, and he's done it with minimal dribbles, maximum focus, and a lightning-fast release. 4-time champion, 5-time All-Star, and a defensive rating that shows he doesn't take possessions off. He's the ultimate catch-and-shoot player, but he also guards the other team's best scorer without blink. When a guy scores 52 in a game with under 30 dribbles, you stop arguing and start respect. That's 13 legends who didn't just play the position, they pushed it forward, all in their own way, all at the top. Level 7, GOATed. Michael Jordan changed what it meant to be a shooting guard. He was 6'6", 216 pounds, drafted 3rd overall in 1984 by Chicago, and made sure nobody ever forgot it. Over 15 seasons, he averaged more than 30 points a game, the highest career scoring average in NBA history. But it wasn't just points. He pulled down over 6 rebounds, handed out more than 5 assists, and swiped over 2 steals per game across more than 1,070 games. He finished with 32,292 total points and over 2,500 steals. And that was just the statistical part. His shooting percentage hovered right under 50%, which is almost unfair for someone who lived on mid-range jumpers and acrobatic finishes. Then came the rings, 6 of them. 6 finals most valuable player trophies, 5 league most valuable player awards, 14 All-Star selections, 9 all-defense first-team nods. There's no argument. Jordan's blend of scoring, defense, competitiveness, and killer instinct built the mold for every shooting guard that followed. His influence redefined how the position was played. He wasn't just dominant, he was inevitable. Then there's Kobe Bryant, also 6'6", just a few pounds lighter, and he entered the league straight from high school in 1996. 20 years with the Lakers, and he didn't waste a second. He racked up 33,643 total points, averaging 25 per game over 1,346 games. He chipped in more than 5 rebounds and nearly 5 assists per game too. He wasn't as efficient as Jordan, just under 45% from the field and about 33% from deep, but his impact was undeniable. 5 championships, 2 finals, most valuable player trophies, 1 league, most valuable player award, and 18 all-star selections. And let's not pretend that all defense nods don't matter. 12 of them. Kobe made defense personal, and the scoring, that 81-point night against Toronto, still feels unreal. That season, he averaged more than 35 a game. Kobe had a scoring bag so deep it might have had its own zip code. Fadeaways, post-ups, spin moves, turnaround jumpers, all with defenders draped on him like laundry. He adapted across eras too. From running with Shaq to carrying the squad post-Shaq, he never stopped evolving. Both Jordan and Kobe didn't just score. They guarded the best player, took the last shot, and set the tone for entire franchises. Their commitment to both ends of the floor, their championship resumes, and their ability to carry teams night after night put them at the top. They weren't just great shooting guards, they were the standard. And when you talk about the best to ever play the position, you start and end with them. 2000, Michael Redd fell all the way to the Milwaukee Bucks at pick 43, and that ended up being one of the wildest value plays in NBA history. He turned into an all-star, an all-NBA player, and an Olympic gold medalist, finishing his career with 11,972 points and a 19-point scoring average. At Ohio State, he'd shown real scoring chops, helping the Buckeyes reach the 1999 Final Four, but questions about his athleticism and defense sank him into the second round. He barely played as a rookie, logging just 35 total minutes, but by his 4th season, he was an all-star, averaging 21.7 points a game. His peak stretched across 5 different seasons where he topped 21 points a night, including a career-high 26.7 scoring average that ranked him 5th in the entire league. He even dropped 57 points in a single game against Utah, breaking a franchise record that had belonged to Kareem. In a draft class remembered as one of the weakest ever, Milwaukee found the class's best individual scorer in the middle of round 2, and that's exactly why he's the biggest steal of 2000. 2001, Tony Parker went 28th overall to San Antonio, the very last pick of the first round, and turned into a Hall of Famer with 4 championships. He was just 19, playing in France, and NBA teams weren't yet chasing international guards the way they do now. He started as a rookie almost immediately, then became the starting point guard on a championship team by age 20. Alongside Tim Duncan and Manu, he helped form the winningest trio in league history by regular season wins. His signature moment came in the 2007 Finals sweep of Cleveland, where he averaged 24.5 points and became the first European-born player to win Finals MVP. He made 6 All-Star teams, earned multiple All-NBA selections, and finished as high as 5th in MVP voting during the 2011-12 season. Across 18 seasons, he racked up 19,473 points and 7,036 assists while shooting 49.1% from the field. Remarkable for a guard who lived in the paint. 27 players went before him, including Powell and Joe Johnson, but none matched his combination of titles, awards, and longevity. San Antonio used the last pick of round 1 to land their starting point guard for 4 championship runs, and that's an all-timer of a steal. 2002, Carlos Boozer slipped to pick 35, and Cleveland ended up with a 2-time All-Star who ranked 2nd in the entire draft class in career win share. At Duke, he'd been a key piece of the 2001 national championship team, but concerns about his size and defense pushed him out of round 1. He was productive from day 1, then exploded after joining Utah, where he averaged 20.9 points and 11.7 rebounds, while making his first All-Star team and helping the Jazz reach the Western Conference Finals. The next year, he was even better, putting up 21.1 points and 10.4 rebounds across all 82 games and finishing 11th in MVP voting. Over 13 seasons, he scored nearly 14,000 points and grabbed over 8,000 rebounds, recording more than 400 career double-doubles. He also won Olympic medals in both 2004 and 2008. Only 4 players from that entire draft class became All-Stars, and 3 of them went in the top 10. Boozer lasted until 35, yet outproduced almost the whole class by career value, making him one of the sneakiest steals the league has ever seen. 2003, Kyle Korver is a wild story because the Nets drafted him 51st and immediately sold his rights to Philadelphia for $125,000, money he later said helped cover a summer league entry fee. 50 players went before him, yet he played 17 NBA seasons and appeared in over 1,200 games, finishing with nearly 12,000 points. His shooting became legendary. He led the league in three-point percentage 4 separate times, once hitting an NBA record 53.6% from deep in a single season. In 2014-15, he made his only All-Star team at 30, 3 years old, becoming the fourth oldest first-time All-Star ever. He also set a record by hitting a three-pointer in 127 straight games, a mark that stood until Steph Curry broke it. This came out of the legendary 2003 class that produced LeBron James, D. Wade, Carmelo Anthony, and Chris Bosh near the top, which makes Korver's rise from 51st even more absurd. 17 seasons, an All-Star nod, and one of the purest shooting resumes in history, all from a pick that almost didn't get used at all. 2004, Trevor Ariza went 43rd to the Knicks and ended up playing 18 NBA seasons, appearing in over 1,100 games. He'd played just 1 year at UCLA and was only 18 years old on draft night. Reportedly, Knicks president Isaiah Thomas hadn't even watched him play in person before drafting him. Ariza developed slowly but steadily, and his defining moment came with the Lakers during their 2009 championship run, where he started 23 playoff games and shot 47.6% from three while locking down opposing wings. That title, alongside Kobe Bryant and Pau, gave him something almost nobody else from his draft class ever got as a role player. He kept grinding for over a decade afterward, eventually becoming a key piece of James Harden's Houston Rockets teams, including the 65-win squad in 2017-18. He developed from a non-shooter into a guy who made over 1,600 career threes. The 2004 class had Dwight Howard, Andre Iguodala, and Josh Smith near the top, but Ariza outlasted nearly all of them, playing for 10 different franchises and staying valuable the entire way. 2005, Lou Williams fell to 45 and became the most decorated bench scorer in NBA history. He came straight out of high school in Georgia, a McDonald's All-American who skipped college entirely, but his size worried teams, enough to drop him into the second round. He developed gradually in Philadelphia before becoming one of the great instant offense weapons the league has seen. Williams won 6th Man of the Year 3 separate times, tying the all-time record, with his 2017-18 season standing out most. That year, he averaged 22.6 points for the Clippers, while starting only 19 games, finishing 11th in MVP voting, despite coming off the bench almost every night. He eventually passed Del Curry to become the league's all-time leader in points scored as a reserve. Across 17 seasons and over 1,100 games, he scored more than 15,000 points, finishing second in total scoring among everyone from his draft class, trailing only Chris Paul. 44 players got picked before him, yet he outscored nearly the entire group, redefining what a bench player could be worth to a franchise. 2006, Paul Millsap went 47th to Utah, just 13 picks from the end of the entire draft, and became a 4-time All-Star with more career win shares than anyone else in his class. At Louisiana Tech, he'd been the only player in NCAA Division I history to lead the nation in rebounding 3 straight years, but his undersized frame scared teams off. He immediately outplayed his draft slot, earning second-team All-Rookie honors, then took over as a starter once Utah lost Carlos Boozer to injury. His biggest transformation came after joining Atlanta, where he made 4 straight All-Star teams and helped the Hawks win 60 games in 2014-15, the most in franchise history. He became one of the rare players to finish his career with over 1,000 steals and 1,000 blocks. 16 seasons, 95 career win shares, more than every player selected ahead of him, including LaMarcus Aldridge and Rajon Rondo. 46 players went before Millsap, yet he ended up producing more total value than the entire class, an outcome almost nobody could have predicted out of Louisiana Tech. 2007, Marc Gasol went 48th to the Lakers, who then flipped his rights to Memphis as part of the trade that sent his brother Pau to Los Angeles. At the time, everyone thought Memphis got fleeced. Marc had never played an NBA game, and questions about his conditioning were everywhere. He proved all of it wrong, becoming Defensive Player of the Year in 2012-13, while anchoring the league's stingiest defense and helping Memphis reach its first Western Conference Finals. He made 3 All-Star teams, earned 2 All-NBA selections, including first-team honors, and became the centerpiece of the beloved grit and grind era alongside Zach Randolph and Mike Conley. Later in his career, he was traded to Toronto, where his defensive intelligence helped the Raptors win the 2019 championship. He finished with roughly 85 career win shares, trailing only Kevin Durant and Al Horford from that entire class. 47 players went before him, and the team that actually drafted him never used him at all. That's about as strange and successful a draft story as the league has ever produced. 2008, DeAndre Jordan slipped to pick 35 after a rough single season at Texas A&M, where his free throw shooting and fundamentals raised alarms. The Clippers were patient, and it paid off enormously once Lob City formed around Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. Jordan became one of the most dominant finishers the league has seen, leading the NBA in field goal percentage for 5 straight seasons and becoming the first player ever to shoot at least 70% from the field in multiple seasons. He earned first team All-NBA honors in 2015-16, meaning the 35th pick was officially voted the league's best center that year. He led the league in rebounding twice and put together a 360-game Iron Man streak at one point. Years later, well after leaving the Clippers, he finally won a championship with Denver in 2022-23. 34 players went before him, including Derrick Rose and Russell Westbrook at the top of the class. Yet Jordan still managed to grab a first-team All-NBA nod that most of them never touched, cementing him as one of the great value picks of his era. 2009, Steph Curry going 7th overall isn't a typical second-round steal story, but the gap between his draft slot and what he became makes him one of the greatest value picks ever. 6 teams passed on him, including Minnesota, who bizarrely took 2-point guards right before him. Concerns about his size and ability to defend NBA guards knocked him outside the very top of the draft. Curry became a 2-time unanimous and non-unanimous MVP, the first unanimous MVP in league history during his historic 2015-16 season when he made 400 three-pointers, a number nobody had ever approached before. He won 4 championships, a finals MVP in 2022, and became the league's all-time leader in three-pointers made. His shooting single-handedly changed how the entire NBA thinks about shot select, pushing teams from around 18 three-point attempts a game before his arrival to well over 35 today. Blake Griffin, James Harden, and DeMar DeRozan all came out of that same class, but Curry became the most valuable player from it by a mile, all while sitting at pick number 7. 2010, Paul George went 10th overall after 2 seasons at Fresno State, a smaller program that kept him off the national radar. 9 players got picked before him, and an anonymous scout reportedly predicted right before the draft that George would be the best player from the entire class within 5 years. That prediction came true. He broke out during the 2012-13 season after Danny Granger got hurt, winning Most Improved Player and making his first All-Star team, while leading Indiana to the Eastern Conference Finals. He suffered a horrific leg injury during a Team USA scrimmage in 2014, missing most of the following season, but came back and kept climbing, eventually posting a career year in Oklahoma City, where he finished 3rd in both MVP and Defensive Player of the Year voting. He made 9 All-Star teams and 6 All-NBA selections total. Indiana also flipped him into 2 future All-Stars, Victor Oladipo and Sabonis. When he requested a trade, then Oklahoma City later turned him into Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a mountain of draft picks. That value chain from the 10th pick kept paying off for years across multiple franchises. 2011, Jimmy Butler went 30th, the very last pick of the first round, out of a junior college path through Tyler and then Marquette. He was already 21 on draft night, older than teams typically prioritize, and averaged only 2.6 points as a rookie. Nothing about his early numbers suggested stardom. Then he broke out in 2014-15, winning Most Improved Player and making his first All-Star team, becoming the first player in Bulls history to win that award. He kept climbing from there, eventually leading Miami to the finals in the pandemic bubble in 2020, where he dropped a 40-point triple-double in Game 3. Only the 3rd player ever to do that on that stage. He topped himself again in 2023, leading Miami from the play-in tournament all the way to the finals as an 8th seed, scoring 56 points in one game against Milwaukee along the way. 29 players went before him, including Kyrie Irving and Kawhi Leonard, yet Butler finished with more career win shares than anyone else in that entire class, an incredible outcome for the final pick of round 1. 2012, Draymond Green went 35th to Golden State, and they didn't even use him with their first pick that day. They'd already taken Harrison Barnes and Festus Ezeli before him. He'd spent 4 full seasons at Michigan State and won National Player of the Year honors, but his tweener frame made teams unsure where he'd even fit. He barely played his first 2 seasons, then took over as a starter in 2014-15 after David Lee got hurt and Golden State won the championship that same year. His versatility became the engine of the Warriors dynasty, anchoring the famous small ball lineups that changed how the league thought about positionless basketball. He won Defensive Player of the Year in 2016-17, made 4 All-Star teams, and won 4 championships total. He even recorded the first triple-double in league history with fewer than 10 points, finishing with 4 points, 12 rebounds, and 10 assists in a single game. 34 players went before him, and Green famously memorized every single one of their names. Golden State found a foundational piece of a dynasty in the second round, which remains one of the great scouting wins in modern league history. 2013. Giannis went 15th to Milwaukee out of Greece's second division, an incredibly thin prospect who barely faced high-level competition. 14 players went before him. He averaged just 6.8 points as a rookie, but his scoring average climbed every single season after that. By his 4th year, he was an All-Star, and by 2018-19, he'd won his first MVP award. The following season, he won MVP again, while also capturing Defensive Player of the Year, joining Michael Jordan and Hakeem Olajuwon as the only players to win both in the same year. His defining moment came in 2021, when he led Milwaukee to its first championship in 50 years, scoring 50 points in the closeout game against Phoenix, while also grabbing 14 rebounds and blocking 5 shots. He became the second player in Bucks history to win MVP, joining Kareem. Players like Anthony Bennett went ahead of him and became infamous draft busts, while Giannis turned into one of the greatest players the sport has ever produced. 14 teams passed on him before Milwaukee got their franchise cornerstone at 15. 2014, Nikola Jokic might be the single greatest draft steal in the sport's history. He went 40, first overall to Denver, and his selection wasn't even shown live on TV. ESPN was airing a commercial when his name got called while he was asleep in Serbia. 40 players went before him. He wasn't athletic, wasn't explosive, and his conditioning got questioned constantly. He stayed in Europe another year before joining Denver, then developed steadily until he became a full-blown superstar. He won 3 MVP awards, becoming the lowest drafted player ever to win the honor, breaking a record that had belonged to Steve Nash. In 2022-23, he led Denver to its first championship in franchise history, winning Finals MVP after averaging 30 points, 14 rebounds, and 7 assists across the series, becoming the first player ever to record a 30-point, 20-rebound, 10-assist game in finals history. According to career win share data, Jokic had produced nearly double the value of the next closest player. From his entire draft class, 40 players got picked ahead of him, and none of them came remotely close to matching what he built. 2015, Norman Powell went 46th overall to Milwaukee, who immediately traded him to Toronto for Greivis Vasquez. 45 players went before him. He'd played 4 seasons at UCLA and shot only 31.9% from 3 in college, so his shooting projection was a major concern. He gradually became a key rotation piece in Toronto, then a championship contributor in 2019, shooting 46.2% from 3 during the Eastern Conference Finals as the Raptors beat Milwaukee on their way to the title. His biggest leap came later, when he developed into one of the league's most efficient bench scorers, averaging 19.6 points one season while shooting nearly 44% from 3. He eventually became an all-star more than a decade after being drafted. What makes this pick even wilder is that the future first-rounder Milwaukee gave up to get him eventually turned into OG Anunoby, meaning Toronto landed 2 long-term contributors from one single trade. 45 players got selected before Powell, and he outlasted almost every single one of them while developing into one of the game's better volume shooters off the bench. 2016, Pascal went 27th to Toronto after a wild path that started with basketball camps in Cameroon and led him to New Mexico State, a small program most scouts hadn't heavily scouted. 26 players went before him. He barely played as a rookie and even spent time in the G League, where he won Finals MVP for Raptors 905. 2 years later, he was the second leading scorer on an NBA championship team, scoring 32 points in his Finals debut against Golden State and hitting the championship clinching shot in Game 6. That same season, he won Most Improved Player. After Kawhi Leonard left, Pascal stepped into the lead role and made 2 All-Star teams while earning multiple All-NBA selections, including averaging a career-high 24.2 points in 2022-23. Toronto eventually traded him to Indiana for Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, and 3 first-round picks, showing just how much value he still carried years later. 26 players got picked before him, yet he became a champion, an award winner, and an all-star. An incredible outcome from the back half of the first round. 2017, Jarrett Allen went 22nd to Brooklyn after just 1 college season at Texas, where the team had a rough overall record. 21 players went before him. Brooklyn didn't even control their own lottery pick that year because of the old Boston trade, yet still found a future all-star center in the back half of round 1. He developed into an elite finisher and rim protector, then got traded to Cleveland as part of the James Harden deal in 2021. That trade turned into a massive win for the Cavaliers, as Allen made his first All-Star team the very next season, while shooting an outstanding 67.7% from the field. His efficiency has stayed remarkable throughout his career, repeatedly ranking among the league's leaders in field goal percentage by sticking to high-value shots near the rim. Paired with Evan Mobley, he became part of the defensive foundation for Cleveland's rebuild. Players like Markelle Fultz and Josh Jackson went well ahead of him and produced far less, while Allen quietly built one of the more efficient and durable careers from the entire 2017 class. 2018, Jalen Brunson, going 33rd overall, might be one of the strangest misses in modern draft history because teams had a ton of information on. He'd won 2 national championships at Villanova, along with basically every major college player of the year award, yet fell to the second round because he wasn't seen as an elite athlete. 32 players went before him. He developed steadily in Dallas, then broke out during the 2022 playoffs, scoring 41 points in a single game while Luka was hurt. Dallas let him leave in free agency, and he signed with the Knicks, where his game jumped to another level entirely. In 2023-24, he averaged 28.7 points, finished 4th in MVP voting, and scored 40 or more points in 4 straight playoff games, joining Michael Jordan and Jerry West as the only players to do that in league history. He dropped 47 points in a single playoff game against Philadelphia, setting a Knicks franchise record. 32 players got picked ahead of him, including several who never became full-time starters, while Brunson turned into an MVP caliber guard from the back of the second round. 2019, Nickeil Alexander-Walker's story is far less linear than most of the picks on this list. He went 17th overall, technically drafted by Brooklyn before landing with New Orleans through draft night trades. 16 players went before him. His early years were rocky. He got traded multiple times, including twice within 48 hours during one stretch, and his efficiency struggled badly early on. He eventually found his footing in Minnesota as a defensive specialist, helping the Timberwolves reach the Western Conference Finals in 2024 while playing all 82 games. Then his career reached a whole new level with Atlanta, where during the 2025-26 season, he roughly doubled his scoring average to around 21 points a game and won the league's Most Improved Player award. That is a remarkable turnaround for a guy who was averaging under 7 points a game just a couple seasons earlier. 16 players got picked before him, several of whom produced far less over their careers, and his path from struggling role player to Most Improved Player winner makes him one of the more unusual and compelling value stories from that entire draft class. 2020, Tyrese Maxey went 21st to Philadelphia after 1 season at Kentucky, where he shot only 29.2% from 3, raising real questions about his shooting translation. 20 players went before him. As a rookie, he averaged just 8 points, but everything changed once Ben Simmons requested a trade and opened up the backcourt. Maxey's 3-point shooting jumped from that shaky college number all the way up to over 42% in the pros, a complete transformation of his biggest weakness. His breakout arrived in 2023-24 after James Harden left, when he averaged 25.9 points and 6.2 assists, scored 50 points 3 separate times, made his first All-Star team, and won Most Improved Player. Philadelphia rewarded him with a 5-year max contract worth roughly $204 million. By the 2025-26 season, he was averaging 28.3 points a night. 20 players went before him, including James Wiseman and Killian Hayes, and Maxey blew past nearly the entire group, turning a 21st pick into a max contract cornerstone in just a handful of seasons. 2021, Jalen Johnson went 20th to Atlanta, despite once being a consensus 5-star recruit, because his lone season at Duke lasted only 13 games before he opted out amid questions about his commitment. 19 players went before him. He barely played his first 2 seasons, appearing in only 22 games as a rookie, but everything clicked in 2023-24 when he moved into the starting lineup and nearly tripled his scoring average. He kept climbing from there, and by the 2025-26 season, he was averaging roughly 23 points, 10.7 rebounds, and 8.1 assists, making his first All-Star team. That stat line put him in historical company with only Oscar Robertson, Wilt Chamberlain, Russell Westbrook, and Nikola Jokic as players who'd ever averaged at least 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 8 assists across a full season. 19 players went ahead of him, including Cade Cunningham and Evan Mobley, both of whom became stars themselves, which makes ranking the whole class tricky. But Johnson's rise from a limited college sample to a genuine all-star gives him one of the strongest value arguments in the entire group. 2022. Moussa Diabate is a different kind of steal story because he's not an all-star, but his value relative to draft slot is still remarkable. He went 43rd to the Clippers after 1 season at Michigan, and 42 players went before him. His first 2 seasons were rough. He played just 33 total games combined and spent real time in the G League before the Clippers moved on entirely. He signed a 2-way deal with Charlotte, converted it into a standard contract, and blossomed into one of the league's most efficient rebounders. By the 2025-26 season, he was averaging 7.9 points and 8.7 rebounds, while shooting over 63% from the field, ranking 14th in the league in total rebounding. He does it all through offensive rebounds, putbacks, and cuts, rather than requiring plays run for him. Charlotte guaranteed his contract going into the following season, locking in the investment. 42 players went ahead of him, and while the class is still young, Diabate's climb from barely playing to becoming a top 15 rebounder in the league is one of the better value outcomes from that entire draft. 2023, Toumani Camara went 52nd overall to Phoenix, one of the very last picks in the whole draft, after transferring from Georgia to Dayton and entering the league already 23 years old. 51 players went before him. He never actually played for Phoenix, getting shipped to Portland as a secondary piece in the Damian Lillard trade. He immediately earned real minutes as a rookie, leading every single second-round selection from his class in steals, rebounds, and assists. His defense became his calling card, allowing him to guard multiple positions and earn trust that most rookies never get. By the 2025-26 season, he was averaging 13.4 points, 5.1 rebounds, and 2.5 assists, a huge developmental jump for someone selected with one of the final picks in the entire draft. 51 players went ahead of him, including Victor Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson near the very top. And while Camara obviously isn't producing at their level, going from the 52nd pick to a legitimate starting caliber 2-way wing is an outcome almost nobody could have predicted on draft night. 2024. Ajay Mitchell went 38th overall, technically to the Knicks before his rights moved to Oklahoma City, and 37 players went before him. He grew up partly in Belgium, the son of a professional player, before starring at UC Santa Barbara, where he averaged around 20 points as a junior. Questions about his age and level of competition dropped him into the second round anyway. He entered one of the deepest young rosters in the league, behind stars like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams, and still carved out real minutes, starting on a 2-way contract before Oklahoma City converted him to a standard deal in February of 2025. His second season brought a massive jump, more than doubling his scoring to around 13.6 points a game while shooting nearly 49% from the field. His playoff numbers climbed even higher, averaging roughly 17 points and nearly 5 assists across his first 9 postseason appearances. 37 players went ahead of him, and Mitchell went from a 2-way roster spot to a legitimate contributor for a championship contending team in under 2 years, an outcome that's incredibly rare for a pick that late in the draft. 2025. Cedric Coward's path is one of the most unusual in recent draft memory, and it's worth remembering only 1 season of evidence exists so far. He went 11th overall, Portland's original pick before it moved to Memphis, and his college career started at Division III Willamette University before he transferred to Eastern Washington and then Washington State. His final college season lasted just 6 games because of a shoulder injury, yet in those 6 games, he averaged 17.7 points on incredible shooting efficiency. His physical tools stood out immediately, including an enormous wingspan around 7'2", giving him real defensive versatility to go with his shooting. As a rookie, He averaged 13.6 points, 5.9 rebounds, and 2.8 assists while shooting 47.1% from the field, including a huge 27-point outburst against Denver in limited minutes. Going from Division III basketball to a lottery pick to an immediately productive NBA rookie is an extraordinary 5-year climb. It's far too early to crown him the definitive steal of his class, but based purely on what he's already shown, Coward has one of the most compelling early arguments in the entire 2025 draft. Chris Bosh. Before 2010, Chris Bosh was the man in Toronto. He averaged over 22 points and 9 rebounds per game across 5 straight All-Star seasons as the Raptors' undisputed franchise player. Then he walked into Miami and completely changed who he was. His scoring dropped from 24 points per game in his final Toronto season to under 19 in his first with the Heat, eventually settling around 16 during the championship years. He didn't complain once. He just reinvented himself. In Toronto, he worked the block and the mid-range. Under Eric Spoelstra, he became one of basketball's earliest stretch big men, extending his range to 18 to 24 feet. Before that was even a common concept. That shooting vacated the paint and gave LeBron James and D-Wade driving lanes no traditional power forward could have created. His defense might have been even more valuable. Miami's aggressive trapping system depended on Bosh switching onto guards while still protecting the rim, and he held up every single night despite playing way outside his natural position. Coaches and analysts have since called him one of the pioneers of the modern switchable center. Then came Game 6 of the 2013 Finals. LeBron missed a three, Bosh grabbed the offensive rebound, and he found Ray Allen in the corner for arguably the most famous shot in Finals history. 2 nights later, he blocked Danny Green's potential game, tying 3 in the closing seconds of Game 7. The Heat reached 4 consecutive finals and won 2 championships during the Big Three era. LeBron took both finals MVP awards. Wade handled the secondary scoring, but without Bosh completely embracing that third option role, the whole thing doesn't work. Manu. Before Manu ever played an NBA game, he'd already won a EuroLeague championship with Virtus Bologna, earned EuroLeague Finals MVP, won the Italian League MVP, and led Argentina to the 2004 Olympic gold medal, ending Team USA's international dominance. That's the resume of someone who should have been a franchise star. Instead, Greg Popovich convinced him to come off the bench starting in the 2007 season, and Manu never looked back. He started only a fraction of his career games despite consistently closing out games and often playing starter-level minutes. That decision completely changed how San Antonio was built. While Tim Duncan anchored the interior and Tony Parker attacked defenses with elite speed, Manu brought creativity that almost nobody else in the league possessed. Euro steps, left-handed drives, unpredictable passing angles, cross-court passes that were years ahead of their time. Defenses genuinely didn't know what was coming. His advanced numbers consistently reflected his impact. Throughout his prime, he ranked among league leaders in true shooting percentage, offensive box plus minus, win shares per 48 minutes, and on-off differential. Even with limited minutes, many metrics viewed him as one of the NBA's most impactful players. Coming off the bench also allowed Popovich to stagger star minutes, giving San Antonio elite offensive creation for all 48 minutes instead of concentrating everything into one lineup. During the 2005 Finals against Detroit, Manu averaged over 18 points and functioned as San Antonio's primary offensive creator for stretches of the series. Many believed he had a legitimate case for Finals MVP before Duncan took the award. The Duncan, Parker, Manu trio finished with 575 regular season wins together, 4 championships, and 126 playoff victories. That's one of the most dominant, sustained runs in NBA history, and Manu chose every bit of it. OG. During New York's 2026 championship run, OG was the piece that made everything fit. Jalen Brunson was the offensive engine. Karl Anthony Towns was the secondary star. OG was the elite two-way connector who filled every gap the roster needed filled. His defensive impact was constant throughout the playoff. He accepted the toughest perimeter assignment every single night, guarding the opposing team's best scorer regardless of position. His combination of strength, length, lateral quickness, and anticipation allowed the Knicks to switch coverages without sending extra help. Offensively, he never disrupted what Brunson or Towns were doing. He thrived as a spot-up shooter, transition finisher, cutter, and opportunistic scorer, never requiring isolation possessions to stay effective. Then came Game 4 of the 2026 finals against San Antonio. The Knicks erased a 29-point deficit, and with less than a second remaining, OG scored the game-winning tip-in, completing one of the largest comebacks in finals history. That victory gave New York a 3-1 series lead, and they captured their first championship in 53 years in Game 5. The basketball from that tip and quickly became one of the most valuable pieces of memorabilia in recent history because of what it represented. Throughout the playoffs, he averaged over 20 points while still carrying arguably the heaviest perimeter defensive workload on the roster. His versatility meant the Knicks stayed flexible against any opponent. Opponents focused so heavily on Brunson's creation and Towns' scoring gravity that OG consistently punished defensive rotation. He gave New York championship-level defense, efficient offense, and one of the biggest clutch plays in franchise history. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson might be the greatest low-maintenance third option the NBA has ever seen. During both championship seasons alongside Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, Thompson's scoring dipped from over 22 points per game to around 20, and he never said a word about it. He just kept winning. The Warriors went 67-15 that first Durant season, then finished 16-1 in the playoffs. Still the best postseason winning percentage in NBA history. Thompson wasn't just spacing the floor either. He was routinely assigned the opponent's toughest perimeter scorer, guarding Damian Lillard, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and others, while Curry conserved energy offensively. Over half of Thompson's made field goals were assisted throughout his career, illustrating exactly how little he needed the basketball compared to traditional stars. His movement through screens created spacing for both Curry and Durant. Even when he never touched the ball, defenses almost never helped off him because leaving him open for a second typically meant 3 points. That gravity gave Durant room to attack one-on-one and gave Curry more space than almost any superstar has ever enjoyed. His individual explosions proved he could take over any game. 37 points in one quarter against Sacramento, still the NBA record. 60 points in 29 minutes while dribbling only 11 times. 14 made threes against Chicago, which stood as the NBA record. Facing elimination in Game 6 against Oklahoma City in 2016, he scored 41 points on 11 three-pointers, an NBA playoff record at the time, completing Golden State's comeback from 3 games to 1 down. In Game 6 against Houston in 2018, with Chris Paul injured, he scored 35 points on 9 threes to force Game 7. He helped reach 5 consecutive finals, won 4 championships, and surpassed Ray Allen for third all-time in playoff three-pointers. Ray Allen. When Ray Allen arrived in Boston in 2007, he wasn't some veteran looking for one last run. He was a 10-time All-Star, a former franchise player in both Milwaukee and Seattle, and one of the greatest offensive players the league had ever seen. He averaged well over 20 points for much of his prime and was one of the league's premier isolation scorers. Then he walked into Boston and completely changed his game. The Celtics improved from 24 wins to 66 wins in his first season and won the 2008 championship. Allen's scoring dropped dramatically because Paul Pierce became the primary perimeter creator, and Kevin Garnett anchored both ends of the floor. Instead of dominating the ball, Allen became one of basketball's greatest off-ball weapons. He sprinted around screens every possession. Defenders described him as exhausting to chase because he literally never stopped moving. His shooting forced defenses to stay attached at all times, and helping off him was almost never an option. That spacing alone dramatically improved Boston's half-court offense. During the 2008 finals against the Lakers, he made 7 three-pointers in Game 2, tying the finals record at the time, and scored 26 points in the championship-clinching Game 6. He remained capable of creating offense himself whenever Pierce struggled or Garnett faced double teams, and he finished numerous playoff series as either Boston's leading or second leading scorer, despite technically being the third option. Advanced lineup data consistently showed Boston's offensive spacing improving whenever Allen shared the floor with Pierce and Garnett, because defenses genuinely couldn't leave him. Without Allen stretching the floor, Garnett's mid-post game and Pierce's isolation scoring become significantly easier to stop. James Worthy. James Worthy was the original prototype of the superstar third option. Drafted first overall in 1982, he entered a roster that already featured Magic Johnson and Kareem. Most number 1 overall picks immediately become franchise cornerstones. Worthy spent his entire prime as the third star. Magic generated transition opportunities. Kareem dominated inside. Worthy attacked open lanes with elite speed and finishing ability that few forwards in NBA history have ever matched. Magic's outlet passes frequently resulted in Worthy finishing fast breaks before defenses even got organized. He constantly moved without the basketball, and Magic consistently rewarded those cuts with precision passes. Although often labeled the third option, Worthy regularly became the Lakers' leading playoff scorer. During the 1987 championship run, he led Los Angeles in playoff scoring at 23.6 points per game. During the 1988 championship, he led them again at 21.1 points per game. His playoff average exceeded his regular season average by approximately 3.5 points per game. Then came Game 7 of the 1988 Finals against Detroit. Worthy finished with 36 points, 16 rebounds, and 10 assists, the only triple-double ever recorded in an NBA Finals Game 7. He won Finals MVP despite playing alongside two all-time greats. Across 34 NBA Finals games, he averaged over 22 points, while shooting approximately 53% from the field, almost all of it against elite playoff defenses. He played in 7 NBA Finals, won 3 championships, and reached the finals in each of his first 4 seasons. He was a #1 overall pick, a Hall of Famer, a Finals MVP, and a 7-time All-Star, who willingly spent his prime complimenting 2 other all-time legends. That's the standard. Robert Parrish. Robert Parrish arrived in Boston through one of the most famous trades in NBA history in 1980, and immediately helped form the legendary frontcourt of Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Parrish. Together they won 3 championships, reached 5 finals, and became one of the greatest frontcourts ever assembled. Although Bird was the offensive centerpiece, and McHale became one of the most unstoppable low-post scorers the game has ever seen, Parrish quietly anchored the foundation at center for 14 seasons. He averaged 16.5 points, 10 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks while shooting over 55% from the field across his entire Boston career. He was selected to 9 All-Star games as a Celtic, despite being consistently overshadowed, and earned All-NBA honors twice while playing alongside 2 other Hall of Fame superstars. His consistency was extraordinary. He averaged a double-double over his entire Celtics career, almost never missing time, and played 1,611 regular season games total, an NBA record when he retired. Between 1980 and 1990, he routinely played over 75 games every season while going against Moses Malone, Kareem, Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, Ralph Sampson, and Bill Laimbeer. Defensively, he gave Boston elite rim protection without gambling excessively. He rarely fouled, consistently altered shots, controlled the defensive glass, and allowed Bird and McHale to roam passing lanes, knowing he was anchoring the paint behind them. His offensive game was remarkably efficient through a high-release jump hook and reliable 15-foot jump that prevented defenses from sending double teams toward the other 2 stars. Boston consistently ranked among the NBA's best in defense efficiency, rebounding percentage, and overall net rating throughout that dynasty, and Parrish was a major reason why. Drew Holiday. Milwaukee traded an enormous package of draft picks to acquire Drew Holiday before the 2020-21 season because they believed he was the missing piece next to Giannis and Middleton. That gamble immediately delivered the franchise's first championship in 50 years. Holiday's greatest value came on defense. He was one of the NBA's premier perimeter defenders, capable of guarding point guards, shooting guards, and wings. And during the championship season, he earned first-team All-Defense while averaging a team-leading 1.63 steals per game. Offensively, he averaged over 17 points and 6 assists during the regular season while handling the toughest perimeter defensive assignments every single night. His versatility allowed Giannis to spend more possessions attacking as a finisher rather than having to initiate every possession himself. Then Game 5 of the finals happened. With less than 20 seconds remaining and Milwaukee leading by only 1 point, Holiday stripped Devin Booker cleanly, pushed the ball immediately, and threw the iconic alley-oop pass to Giannis for one of the most famous plays in finals history. That single defensive possession effectively swung the championship. In Game 5, he finished with 27 points, 13 assists, and the defining steal of the series. In Game 6, he nearly recorded a triple-double while helping close out the title. His impact constantly exceeded the stat sheet. He defended opposing stars full court, fought through screens, disrupted passing lanes, and frequently allowed Giannis to conserve energy for help, side rim protection on the other end. The championship formula was clear. Giannis dominated inside, Middleton handled late-game isolation scoring, and Holiday was the defensive engine, secondary creator, transition initiator, and emotional stabilizer all at once. Kevin Love. Before Cleveland, Kevin Love was arguably the NBA's best power forward. He averaged 26 points and over 12 rebounds during the 2013 through 2014 season, made multiple All-NBA teams, and regularly produced 30.20 rebound games in Minnesota. Then he got traded to Cleveland, and his entire role changed overnight. His scoring average dropped by nearly 10 points. His usage rate fell substantially. Cleveland's offense revolved around LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, and Love completely reinvented himself to fit that structure. Instead of operating as a low-post scorer, he became one of the league's premier stretch power forwards, spacing the floor with elite three-point shooting that forced opposing big men away from the basket and opened driving lanes for LeBron and Kyrie. His elite outlet passing also translated perfectly, consistently generating transition opportunities for LeBron's fast break finishing. His rebounding stayed sharp, even with fewer scoring opportunities. He consistently secured defensive boards and immediately threw outlet passes within seconds of grabbing them. During the 2016 championship season, Love took on defensive assignments that had never been strengths earlier in his career. Then came Game 7 of the finals. With the game on the line in the closing minute, Love switched onto Steph Curry and forced one of the most famous missed shots in finals history. That possession became known simply as the stop. Cleveland overcame a 3-1 deficit against the 73-win Warriors, the only successful comeback from that situation in finals history, and captured the 2016 championship. Love accepted constant criticism because his numbers no longer resembled his Minnesota production, but his spacing, rebounding, passing, and willingness to adapt were critical to everything Cleveland built. Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman is one of the most unique third options in NBA history because he contributed almost everything except scoring. When Chicago acquired him before the 1995-96 season, he was already 34 years old with a reputation for off-court distraction. Instead of being a liability, he became the final piece of one of the greatest dynasties ever assembled. The Bulls finished with a then NBA record 72 wins while winning the championship. Rodman averaged only 5.5 points per game, but led the league with nearly 15 rebounds per game and grabbed yet another rebounding title. He won 7 consecutive rebounding titles total, an NBA record for consecutive seasons leading the league. Standing only 6'7", he routinely out-rebounded centers standing 7 feet tall by studying shot trajectories and learning where missed shots would bounce, based on each shooter's mechanics. That preparation let him arrive at rebound locations before everyone else. Defensively, he gave Chicago incredible flexibility. He legitimately defended point guards, shooting guards, small forwards, power forwards, and centers at an elite level, and Phil Jackson regularly assigned him to the opponent's biggest star regardless of position. During the dynasty, he defended Karl Malone, Shawn Kemp, Shaq, Alonzo Mourning, Charles Barkley, and Larry Johnson. That versatility allowed Scottie Pippen to roam passing lanes, while Michael Jordan conserved energy offensively. Rodman's usage rate remained among the lowest of any Hall of Fame player, meaning he never took possessions away from Jordan and Pippen. He extended possessions instead. His offensive rebounds created extra scoring opportunities that directly increased Chicago's offensive efficiency. Chicago won 3 consecutive championships with Rodman averaging fewer than 6 points per game. The selflessness was complete. James Harden. James Harden's Thunder years are one of the greatest examples of a future MVP willingly accepting a supporting role. Selected 3rd overall in the 2009 draft, Harden entered a roster already built around Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. Instead of demanding a starting role, he became one of the greatest 6th men in NBA history. During the lockout-shortened 2011 to 2012 season, he averaged 16.8 points, 4.1 rebounds, and 3.7 assists while shooting approximately 49% from the field, 39% from 3, and 85% from the free throw line. Those are elite efficiency numbers for a high-usage perimeter scorer. He posted one of the highest true shooting percentages among high-volume guards in the entire league that season. His elite ability to draw fouls dramatically increased Oklahoma City's offensive efficiency, and few bench players in NBA history generated free throws as consistently. He won NBA Sixth Man of the Year that season, becoming the first player in Thunder history to receive the award. Although he technically came off the bench, he almost always finished games. Coach Scott Brooks staggered minutes so Harden could lead the second unit before joining Durant and Westbrook late, ensuring Oklahoma City always had an all-star creator on the floor. His playmaking slowed the game down in ways Durant and Westbrook couldn't. He controlled pick and rolls, manipulated defenses, and consistently found open shooters. Oklahoma City reached the finals that season before losing to Miami. Following the run, the Thunder traded Harden over a relatively small contract difference. Within the next few years, Durant won MVP, Westbrook won MVP, and Harden won MVP. No other team has ever drafted 3 future MVPs and had all 3 on the same roster. Aaron Gordon. When Denver acquired Aaron Gordon during the 2021 season, they needed an athletic forward who could defend elite wings without requiring high shot volume. He immediately became exactly that, and then some. In Orlando, he'd often been forced to create offense as a primary option. In Denver, he completely reinvented himself, focusing on cutting, screening, transition finishing, offensive rebounding, and versatile defense instead of forcing isolation possessions. Playing alongside Nikola Jokic changed everything. Jokic rewards intelligent off-ball movement better than almost any passer in NBA history, and Gordon became one of the league's most dangerous cutters as a result. Backdoor passes, perfectly timed cuts, uncontested dunks, straight from off-ball movement. That's how most of his baskets came. His athleticism gave Denver what neither Jokic nor Jamal Murray naturally provided. He became their primary lob threat, fast break finisher, and physical interior scorer. Defensively, he accepted the toughest assignment almost every night, spending major possessions guarding Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Jimmy Butler, Karl Anthony Towns, and Anthony Edwards across their championship run. That allowed Jokic to stay closer to the basket and conserve energy. During Denver's championship season, Gordon averaged approximately 17 points while shooting well over 50% from the field, because nearly every shot came from within the flow of the offense. His chemistry with Jokic became one of the NBA's best two-man combinations. Murray's pull-up jumpers frequently came off screens that Gordon set before immediately diving toward the rim. He also became one of the best screen setters in the league. His willingness to sacrifice touches, accept dirty work, and prioritize efficiency over volume made him arguably the perfect complementary forward for what Denver was building. Andrew Toney. Andrew Toney is one of the most overlooked elite third options in NBA history. During Philadelphia's legendary 1982 through 83 championship season, he was an all-star caliber scorer, playing behind 2 former league MVPs in Moses Malone and Julius Erving, making the 76ers arguably the deepest team in basketball. Toney averaged 19.7 points and 4.6 assists that season, while shooting efficiently despite sharing touches with 2 Hall of Famers. He finished third on the team in scoring, but frequently looked like Philadelphia's best perimeter shot creator late in games. Nicknamed the Boston Strangler, he earned that reputation by repeatedly torching the Celtics in the playoffs. Across multiple postseason series against Boston, he consistently produced explosive scoring performances against one of the NBA's best defenses. And Celtics players and coaches openly acknowledged he was one of the toughest covers they faced throughout the decade. Where Irving excelled attacking the rim and Malone dominated the paint, Toney specialized in difficult half-court shot creation. He possessed one of the league's smoothest pull-up mid-range jumpers, could create off-isolation, attack pick and rolls, and score from virtually anywhere inside the three-point line. During Philadelphia's championship run, he averaged over 20 points in the playoffs, while the 76ers finished 12-1. Just 1 game shy of Malone's famous faux prediction. The 1982 through 83 team finished 65-17, swept the Lakers in the finals, and is widely considered one of the greatest championship teams ever assembled. Toney's elite perimeter scoring prevented defenses from loading up on either Malone or Irving. His career was unfortunately cut short by chronic foot injuries before he turned 31, despite already being a 2-time All-Star. Horace Grant. Horace Grant was the perfect third option for Chicago's first three-peat because he provided everything that complemented Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen without ever needing offensive volume. During the first championship dynasty from 1991 through 1993, Grant averaged roughly 14 points, 10 rebounds, and elite defense, while consistently ranking among the NBA's best defensive power forwards. Unlike many power forwards of that era, he could defend multiple positions, protect the rim, switch onto wings, defend pick and rolls, and clean the defensive glass. He never required isolations or high-usage possessions, making him a perfect fit for Phil Jackson's triangle offense. Offensively, he was extremely efficient as a screener, offensive rebounder, transition finisher, and mid-range scorer. Jordan and Pippen constantly benefited from Grant creating second-chance possessions and setting physical screens that freed them for scoring opportunities. Many of those contributions never showed up in a box score. Then Jordan retired after the 1992 through 93 season, and Grant proved he was far more than a role player. He averaged over 15 points, 11 rebounds, nearly 4 assists, over 1 steal, and over 1 block while making his first All-Star team and finishing 4th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. That season alone demonstrated legitimate star ability, despite having spent years as Chicago's third option. During the Bulls' first 3 championships, he played every game in 2 title seasons and missed very few contests overall. He handled the toughest defensive assignments against elite Eastern Conference forwards, allowing Jordan and Pippen to conserve energy for larger offensive responsibility. His rebounding became especially valuable against physical playoff opponents like New York and Cleveland. While Jordan got the attention and Pippen emerged as All-NBA, Grant quietly became the defensive backbone that held the first dynasty together. Kyle Lowry. Even though Kawhi Leonard was Toronto's clear first option during the 2018 through 19 season, and Pascal emerged as the second leading scorer, Kyle Lowry remained the emotional leader and one of the greatest championship third options in recent history. His value extended far beyond scoring. He orchestrated Toronto's offense, controlled tempo, organized defensive coverages, drew charges at an elite level, created transition opportunities, and made winning plays that never showed up in a traditional box score. During the championship season, he averaged over 14 points and nearly 9 assists, while serving as Toronto's primary playmaker. His passing maximized both Leonard's isolation scoring and Pascal's transition opportunities simultaneously. One of Lowry's greatest strengths was his willingness to sacrifice his own production. Throughout Leonard's lone season in Toronto, Lowry intentionally reduced his own scoring to ensure Leonard could become the offensive centerpiece without disrupting team chemistry. Defensively, he remained one of the NBA's toughest guards. Despite standing only 6 feet tall, he routinely ranked among league leaders in charges drawn, battled much larger players in the post, boxed out forwards, and consistently generated extra possessions through hustle. His championship moment came in Game 6 of the Finals. After struggling offensively in earlier postseasons, Lowry answered every critic by scoring 11 points within the opening few minutes, immediately setting the tone for Toronto's title, clinching victory over Golden State. Toronto's championship relied on balance. Leonard carried the scoring load, Pascal emerged as an elite secondary scorer, and Lowry handled leadership, playmaking, defense, communication, pace control, and countless winning possessions that rarely generated headlines. By the time he left Toronto, he ranked among the franchise leaders in games played, assists, steals, three-pointers, and wins. Shawn Marion. Before Dallas, Shawn Marion had already been a 4-time All-Star, a 2-time All-NBA selection, and one of the NBA's most versatile forwards, averaging over 21 points and 11 rebounds during his best season with Phoenix. On the 2011 Mavericks, he willingly became a complementary piece behind Dirk Nowitzki and Jason Terry. Rick Carlisle constantly shifted Marion between small forward and power forward depending on the matchup, and his versatility allowed Dallas to switch defensive assignments without ever changing lineups. During the championship run, he guarded the opposing team's best wing in nearly every series. Against the Lakers, he defended Kobe Bryant for long stretches. Against Oklahoma City, he spent major possessions on Kevin Durant. Against Miami, he alternated between LeBron James and Chris Bosh depending on matchups. Few players had more difficult defensive assignments across an entire playoff run. Offensively, Marion accepted a dramatically smaller role than earlier in his career, becoming an elite cutter, transition finisher, offensive rebounder, and secondary scorer rather than a primary creator. His efficiency actually improved because he stopped forcing difficult shots. In Game 5 of the Western Conference Finals against Oklahoma City, he scored 26 points to help eliminate the Thunder. During the finals, he averaged nearly 14 points and over 6 rebounds, while shooting efficiently against Miami's elite defense. His rebounding became especially valuable because Dallas frequently played smaller lineups, and Marion consistently helped Tyson Chandler on the glass while still defending elite perimeter players. His basketball IQ also fit perfectly alongside Dirk. He rarely held the ball and immediately cut, screened, or attacked open space whenever defenses doubled Nowitzki. That movement punished teams for collapsing on Dallas's superstar. Marion's willingness to sacrifice personal statistics after years as a franchise player helped Dallas win its first NBA championship. Bob Dandridge. Bob Dandridge is one of the original elite third options in NBA history. Selected in the 4th round of the 1969 draft, he quickly developed into an outstanding two-way forward for Milwaukee. When the Bucks won the 1971 championship, the roster featured two all-time greats in Kareem and Oscar Robertson. Dandridge became the perfect complement, but he wasn't simply a role player. He averaged nearly 19 points per game during Milwaukee's championship season while providing outstanding perimeter defense, and his scoring forced defenses to respect all three stars instead of focusing entirely on Kareem. Most of his offense came through smart cuts, transition opportunities, and mid-range scoring within the flow of the offense. Oscar Robertson's playmaking consistently created easy scoring chances, and Kareem's dominance inside forced defenses to collapse, giving Dandridge cleaner perimeter looks. Defensively, he frequently guarded the opponent's best forward, and his length, athleticism, and anticipation made him one of the league's better perimeter defenders throughout the 1970s. During Milwaukee's championship season, the Bucks finished with 66 wins, one of the greatest records in NBA history at that time, and they swept the Baltimore Bullets in the finals in one of the most dominant championship performances ever. Although Kareem won Finals MVP, Dandridge played a major supporting role throughout the postseason, and his contributions on both ends made Milwaukee nearly impossible to attack. As Oscar aged, Dandridge gradually accepted more offensive responsibility without disrupting team chemistry, and by mid-decade, he had become an all-star and one of the Eastern Conference's premier forwards. After leaving Milwaukee, he helped Washington win the 1978 championship, proving he could thrive outside Kareem and Oscar's shadow entirely. 4 All-Star selections, 2 championships, over 16,000 career points. Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren has quickly become one of the premier modern third options because he impacts virtually every phase of the game without requiring high shot volume. Selected 2nd overall in the 2022 draft, he joined a roster that became centered around MVP Shea and All-NBA forward Jalen Williams. Rather than forcing his way into a primary scoring role, Holmgren embraced becoming Oklahoma City's defensive anchor while still providing efficient offense. His versatility is extremely rare for a 7'1" player. He can protect the rim, switch onto guards, shoot three-pointers, handle the basketball, pass effectively, and finish above the rim. During Oklahoma City's championship run, his shot blocking dramatically altered opposing offenses even when he didn't record official blocks, because players frequently avoided the paint entirely, knowing he was waiting. That allowed Thunder defenders to pressure ball handlers more aggressively on the perimeter, creating more steals and turnover. Offensively, he perfectly complemented Shea and Williams. When defenses collapsed on Shea's drives, Holmgren stretched the floor from the outside. When defenders switched smaller players onto him, he punished those mismatches inside. His ability to space the floor prevented opposing centers from camping in the paint, which created additional driving lanes for both primary creators. Many of Jamal Williams' pull-up looks came from actions that started with Holmgren. His basketball IQ stood out consistently. He rarely forced offense, made quick decisions, and kept Oklahoma City's attack flowing. By the 2025-26 season, he had become an all-star and an all-NBA third-team selection, while helping the Thunder remain among the league's elite. His willingness to prioritize defense, efficiency, spacing, and winning over individual scoring has made him an ideal third option alongside 2 of the league's best offensive players. First pick. With the first pick, the Orlando Magic took Paolo Banchero. Paolo's grade 4 years later is an A. Right out of the gate, he was expected to carry a franchise, and so far, he's done more than just survive, he's thrived. His rookie year, around 20 points a game. By year 3, he's jumped to nearly 26 points while grabbing boards and dishing assists like a true offensive hub. His usage has climbed every season, but he hasn't wilted. Instead, his shooting efficiency has gotten better, which says a lot about his growth. He even earned an all-star selection in year 2. Defensively, not elite, but he's not a turnstile either. He's got size, skill, and can pass, rebound, and score at every level. His playoff numbers, strong. He's shown up when it matters. Now, He did only play in 46 games during his third season, and his three-point shot still needs work. But when you draft someone first overall, you hope for a player who can become your cornerstone. Banchero's done that. He's not flawless, but nothing's shown up that'd drop his stock. He's doing what a number one pick should: produce, improve, and matter. And that's why he gets an A, second pick. With the second pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder took Chet Holmgren. Chet's grade 4 years later is an A. He didn't touch the court his first season after a foot injury, which was a huge question mark early on. But when he finally debuted, he played all 82 games and looked like the player people expected. In his first season on the court, he put up over 16 points, nearly 8 boards, and more than 2 blocks a night. That's serious production, especially from a guy with such a long list of pre-draft concerns about durability and strength. He could have flopped. He didn't. He shot nearly 37% from deep while protecting the rim, which is exactly what teams want from a modern big. In year 3, he missed time again, but still posted solid numbers. His ability to space the floor and block shots has real value, and his skill set fits right into what the Thunder want. He hasn't been an all-star yet, and he's still got a lot to prove with help, but so far he's doing what a second pick should. The grade is an A because he's met expectations and shown he can be a key piece. Third pick. With the third pick, the Houston Rockets took Jabari Smith Jr. Smith's grade 4 years later is a B-. He came in with a ton of hype, great size, a smooth shot, and high draft expectations. But the results so far have been solid, not spectacular. He started almost every game he's played, but through 3 seasons, he's averaged around 13 points and 7 rebounds. Not bad, but for a top 3 pick, you'd want more. His three-point shot improved from the low 30s to the mid-30s, which is a good sign, but not enough to call him elite from deep. In year 3, his scoring dipped, and he only played 57 games. That raised some questions. Still, Houston just handed him a 5-year deal worth over $120 million, so clearly they see value. He hasn't turned into a go-to guy or a dominant defense presence yet, but he's contributed consistently and seems to be getting more comfortable. The grade stays at B- because he's reliable, improving, and clearly trusted by the team, but not close to star level. For now, he's more solid starter than franchise changer. That might change, but it hasn't yet. By the way, if you guys want to subscribe, I'm going to be posting every day. Thanks. Anyways, fourth pick. With the fourth pick, the Sacramento Kings took Keegan Murray. Keegan's grade 4 years later is a B-. He came in as a knockdown shooter with size, and he made an early impact. He started almost every game as a rookie, dropped over 12 points a night, and hit more than 40% from deep. Year 2, a solid bump, over 15 points and more boards. But instead of continuing to rise in year 3, his scoring dropped, and his three-point percentage kept sliding. That dip is tough to ignore, especially when one of his biggest strengths is supposed to be floor spacing. He did have a wild game where he hit 12 threes and scored 47 points, which proves the upside is there. But consistency is still a question. He's not a liability, and he's played most of his games each season, which matters. He even made all-rookie first team. But for a top 4 pick, you'd hope to see a clearer path to all-star status by now. He's more steady contributor than standout forward so far. The grade lands at B- because he's good, but just hasn't hit that higher gear yet. Maybe he will, but not yet. Fifth pick. With the fifth pick, the Detroit Pistons took Jaden Ivey. Ivey's grade 4 years later is a B+. In his rookie year, he looked like a solid building, over 16 points per game and more than 5 assists. His second year wasn't a big jump, but his third season started off strong. Before suffering a broken fibula, he averaged nearly 18 points on 46% shooting, and he was hitting over 40% from deep. That's big-time progress. He's played in over 180 games so far and has shown he can be a reliable starter. He's explosive, he's aggressive, and when he's on, he gives defenses a real problem. His overall shooting has improved every year, which is a great sign. Still, he hasn't made the leap into all-star territory yet, and injuries have slowed his momentum. The three-point percentage for his career sits around 35, which is decent, but not elite. The grade lands at B+ because he's shown growth, he's produced, and he's trending upward. But as a top 5 pick, the expectation is stardom, not just flash it. He's close, but he's not there yet. Let's see if he makes that leap. Next, sixth pick. With the sixth pick, the Indiana Pacers took Benedict Mathurin. Mathurin's grade 4 years later is a B+. As a rookie, he came in hot, nearly 17 points per game, and earned all rookie first team honors. That's how you start a career. He followed it up with a bit of a dip in scoring in year 2, but improved his three-point shooting to almost 37.5%. Then in year 3, he bounced back with over 16 points and a career high in rebound. but his three-point percentage slid again. So while he's scoring and staying involved, that inconsistency from deep is a bit of a red flag, especially for a wing. He started a lot of games, played solid minutes, and has held a key role on the roster. His playoff minutes haven't been huge, but he's been efficient in the time he's gotten. He hasn't broken out as a two-way force yet, and the star leap still hasn't happened. But there's enough there to be encouraged. A B+ fits because he's producing, improving in some areas, and staying reliable. The talent's there. It's just not all the way unlocked yet. 7th pick. With the 7th pick, the Portland Trail Blazers took Shaedon Sharpe. Sharpe's grade 4 years later is a B+. He came into the league with mystery, never played a college game, but had a lot of hype. His rookie year was quiet, under 10 points a night in just over 20 minutes. But by year 2, when healthy, he made a leap to nearly 16 points a game. Then came year 3, where he averaged 18.5 points and started more than 50 games. That kind of growth stands out. He's athletic, aggressive, and can create his own shot. The issue? His three-point percentage was just a bit over 31 in year 3. That's low for someone with his role. He's got highlight moments, like his 37-point game, but still lacks consistent shooting and playmaking. Defense is another area where he hasn't popped. His rebounding and assists are okay, not special. He's young and getting better, but the jump to being a real star hasn't happened yet. The B+ makes sense. He's trending upward, producing more each season, and clearly belongs. But the polish, the consistency, and the two-way dominance, still not there. Not yet. 8th pick. With the 8th pick, the New Orleans Pelicans took Dyson Daniel. Daniel's grade 4 years later is an A. His growth curve has been wild. In 3 seasons, he's gone from a low-usage rookie to one of the most impactful defenders in the league. In year 3, he averaged around 14 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and led the entire NBA in steals at 3 a game while shooting just under 50% from the field. He started every single game and became the defensive anchor for the Pelicans' perimeter defense. The awards piled up too. He made the all-defensive first team, finished runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year, and even took home the Most Improved Player award. That's an incredible resume for a 22-year-old who came in viewed mainly as a long-term project. Offensively, he's still a work in progress. His three-point percentage around 34 isn't elite yet, and he's not scoring 20 a night, but his efficiency and playmaking have come a long way. The A fits perfectly because he's delivered elite defense, big statistical growth, and legitimate star potential. He's turned potential into production and is just getting started. 9th pick. With the 9th pick, the San Antonio Spurs took Jeremy Sohan. Sohan's grade 4 years later is a B-. He's become a dependable starter, logging steady minutes and putting up over 11 points and 6 boards a game. The defense is clearly his strength. He's long, active, and covers ground well. That part's not in question, but this grade isn't about just doing one thing well. His scoring hasn't really taken off, hovering around the same number each season, and his three-point shot hasn't caught up to the pace of the league. Shooting about 30% from deep just doesn't stretch the floor enough in today's game. Even with a bump in field goal percentage recently, it looks more like a role shift than a breakout. He started almost every game, so the Spurs are clearly invested, but that 9th pick brings higher expectations. The flashes are there, and the tools are obvious, but the consistent production at a higher level just hasn't hit yet. If his offense catches up to his effort and instincts, he'll climb. But for now, the B- makes sense. Solid, useful, valuable, but not quite the leap fans were hoping for by year 3. 10th pick. With the 10th pick, the Washington Wizards took Johnny Davis. Davis's grade 4 years later is an F. Coming out of Wisconsin, he put up nearly 20 points a game and looked like a breakout star in college. But the concerns about his shooting and efficiency weren't just noise. They've turned into real issues. Through 3 seasons, he's averaged only about 3.5 points per game on just under 12 minutes a night. That's not just below expectations for a top 10 pick. It's miles behind. He's barely cracked any rotation and hasn't made a case for more minutes. His three-point shooting, sitting around 27%, is a major problem for a guard. And the trade to Memphis in 2025, that ended in a waiver before he ever hit the floor. At this point, there's really no argument. The flashes from college never carried over, and the production's been minimal at best. Even if there's still time to turn things around, the first 4 years have been rough. So yeah, an F fits. The pick just hasn't worked out. 11th pick. With the 11th pick, the New York Knicks selected Ousmane Dieng, then traded him to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Dieng's grade 4 years later is a D-. Through 3 seasons, his production has been low across the board. He's averaging just over 4 points and 2 rebounds per game, and his minutes have actually gone down each year. In year 1, he played about 15 minutes a night. By year 3, that dropped to around 11. That's not the trend you want from a lottery pick. His three-point shooting, a key area of growth for modern forwards, still hasn't clicked. He's floating around 30% or worse. He's only started in 2 games over 3 seasons, and most of his time has come in low-leverage situations. The potential is still there, but at this point, he's nowhere near a reliable rotation guy. His physical tools haven't translated into consistent impact. He gets the D-. Because he's at least played over 100 games and is still extremely young, but there's no way to sugarcoat it. He's way behind. If things don't shift soon, this pick's going to keep looking worse. The development has just not landed yet. 12th pick. With the 12th pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder selected Jalen Williams. Williams' grade 4 years later is an A+. This one isn't close. He's gone from mid-lottery prospect to all-star and a key piece on a championship team. In year 1, he averaged about 14 points a game while shooting over 50% from the field and 35% from 3. Then he jumped to 19 points in year 2, and in year 3 he cracked over 21 per game. His assist numbers have gone up, his rebounding has improved, and he's logged heavy minutes while guarding multiple positions. He made the All-Star team in 2025, landed on the All-NBA third team, and made the All-Defensive second team in the same year. And during the Thunder's title run, he wasn't just tagging along, he was dropping 40-point games in the finals. His three-point shooting dipped a bit in year 3, but the volume and production make up for it. For a pick at number 12, this is about as good as it gets. Star-level impact, elite growth curve, and legit playoff production. He shattered expectation. This pick is a grand slam. 13th pick. With the 13th pick, the Charlotte Hornets selected Jalen Duren, then traded him to the Detroit Pistons. Duren's grade 4 years later is an A-. He's been a consistent double-double machine and already looks like one of the better rebounders in his class. Through 3 seasons, he's averaged over 11 points and 10 rebounds per game while shooting nearly 70% from the field in year 3. That level of efficiency isn't just good, it's elite for his role. He's not stretching the floor or dropping threes, but he knows exactly what he's supposed to do and does it at a high level. Duren's role has been stable, lots of rim work, strong rebounding, and interior scoring. While he hasn't broken into all-star conversations yet, his production is impressive for someone drafted 13th. The only thing holding him back from an A+ is that his defense is still developed, and he hasn't made the kind of two-way leap you'd want for top-tier status. But as a physical big who controls the glass and finishes at the rim, he's hit above expectation. He's young, productive, efficient, and only getting better. This pick has turned out great. 14th pick. With the 14th pick, the Cleveland Cavaliers selected Ochai Agbaji, then traded him to the Utah Jazz. Agbaji's grade 4 years later is a C. He came into the league as an experienced college player with a polished jumper, and while his game hasn't flopped, it also hasn't taken off. Through 3 seasons, he's averaged just under 8 points a game in about 23 minutes. That's solid bench production, but not quite what teams hope for with the lottery pick. The bright spot came in the 2025 season with Toronto, where he started 45 games and averaged over 10 points, shooting nearly 40% from 3 and just under 50% from the field. That efficiency boost helped his case, but it's still a small sample and not enough to move the grade higher. His usage has been low, his advanced stats haven't impressed, and his defense hasn't really set him apart. He's on the path to being a useful role player, but hasn't become the kind of difference maker a team usually expects at 14. So the C grade fits. A solid player with room to grow, but nothing that stands out yet. 15th pick. With the 15th pick, the Charlotte Hornets selected Mark Williams. Williams' grade 4 years later is a B+. He's quietly become one of the better values from the middle of that draft. In year 3, he averaged over 15 points and 10 rebounds in under 27 minutes per game, while shooting above 60% from the field. His career averages through 3 seasons sit around 12 points and almost 9 boards, showing steady production in limited minutes. His defense has made a clear impact too. Team defensive ratings improve significantly when he's on the floor. He's been an efficient finisher, solid rebounder, and reliable rim protector. But the offensive game is still limited to the paint, and he's not creating his own shot or stretching the floor yet. That's fine for his role, but to move into the next tier, he'll need to expand his skill set and stay healthy. He missed most of 1 season due to injury. Still, for a mid-first rounder, this kind of production and reliability is above expectation. Williams is a strong piece for Charlotte's future. The B+ reflects that he's doing well now, with clear room to climb even higher. 16th pick. With the 16th pick, the Atlanta Hawks selected A.J. Griffin. Griffin's grade, 4 years later, is a D-. And this one's unusual, not because of performance, but because of how it ended. After just 2 seasons in the league, Griffin retired at only 21 years old to pursue a religious path. During his short time on the court, he showed flashes of what made him a mid-first round pick. In his rookie season, he averaged close to 9 points per game, shot nearly 40% from 3, and looked like a promising young shooter with size and upside. But after that, his role with Atlanta shrank. His production dipped, and by year 2, he was barely seeing the floor. Then came the retirement, cutting off what could have been a developing career before it ever had a real chance to grow. Because his exit wasn't due to poor skill or off-court issues, the grade can't be a complete failure. But for the Hawks, the pick still provided almost no long-term value. So the D- fits. Griffin's decision was personal and respectable. But from a basketball perspective, the outcome was disappointing for such a talented prospect. 17th pick. With the 17th pick, the Houston Rockets took Tari Eason. Eason's grade 4 years later is a B. He's done more than hold a roster spot. He's become a real part of the Rockets' rotation. Across his first 4 years, he's chipped in around 10 points and 6 rebounds a game in under 23 minutes. That scoring climbed to 12 points this season, and he's finishing at nearly 49% from the field. His three-point shot is still coming along, sitting at about 34%, which isn't bad, but it's not stretching defenses yet. The hustle is there. He's pulling in rebounds, poking steals, and bothering shooters. Like he actually enjoys doing the gritty stuff. That's helped him earn solid bench and starter minutes. Still, he hasn't made a major leap. He's a glue guy, not a breakout star. The grade stays at a B because he's returning solid value for a mid-first rounder, but he hasn't pushed into the next tier. If he can bump up that scoring, stretch the floor better, and show more offensive variety, there's room for this grade to climb. Right now, though, steady and reliable beats flashy and inconsistent. 18th pick. With the 18th pick, the Chicago Bulls took Dalen Terry. Terry's grade 4 years later is a D. He had the defensive tools coming out of college, and people were excited about his size and versatility. But through 3 seasons, the production hasn't caught up. He's averaged just over 3 points per game across about 11 minutes. And while this past season saw a small bump to 4.5 points, it's still far from what you'd expect from a top 20 pick. His rookie year was barely a blip, and his second season wasn't much louder. Shooting numbers stayed low until this year, when he finally hit about 36% from deep, but that's really the only offensive progress we've seen. His role has mostly been deep bench minutes, with just a handful of starts over 4 years. Advanced metrics have him in the negatives too, so it's not just about the box score. He hasn't carved out a real identity on the court yet. He's still young, and sure, there's time, but right now, this pick hasn't returned close to the value expected. He's active, but not impactful. That's why the grade sits at a D 19th pick. With the 19th pick, the Memphis Grizzlies took Jake LaRavia. LaRavia's grade 4 years later is a B. He hasn't exactly become a headline guy, but he's carved out a steady role. Over 3 seasons, he's averaged just over 7 points and 3 rebounds a game. This past season, he chipped in nearly 7 points, close to 4 rebounds, and over 2 assists in about 20 minutes a night. Those aren't superstar numbers, but for a mid-first rounder, it's nothing to scoff at. Shooting-wise, he's showing progress. This season, he hit nearly 48% from the field, and in early games of the next year, he's knocking down over 54% and a scorching 47% from 3. Small sample, sure, but it's something. Still, he's mostly stuck in a rotation role. His minutes are consistent, but he's not a starter yet, and hasn't made that leap. His scoring's respectable, but not quite assertive. If he can stretch that hot shooting over a full year and expand his defense, there's more potential here. He's doing what a 19th pick should, contributing, growing, and staying efficient. Not flashy, not dominant, but solid. That's why LaRavia lands right at a B 20th pick. With the 20th pick, the San Antonio Spurs took Malachi Branham. Branham's grade 4 years later is a D-. He came in with scoring upside and a smooth jumper from Ohio State, but things haven't clicked at the NBA level. His rookie season looked decent, over 10 points per game in about 23 minutes. But the next 2 years, it went downhill. His scoring dropped to around 5 points per game in year 3, and his minutes were slashed to just over 9 per night. He didn't start a single game in that 3rd season. For a top 20 pick, that's not a great look. Sure, he's still young, and he did shoot over 40% from 3 this past year, but that's in a very limited role. That efficiency doesn't mean much if he's barely touching the ball. His career, Averages through 3 seasons sit under 9 points a game, with very little else filling out the box score. Advanced metrics, also not in his favor. It's not a lost cause, but it's not looking great either. The potential hasn't turned into production. That's why the D- fits. Not a bust, but pretty close. 21st pick. With the 21st pick, the Denver Nuggets took Christian Braun. Brown's grade, 4 years later, is an A. He's done exactly what teams hope for when drafting late in the first round. And then some. His averages over his first 4 years come out to just over 9 points, nearly 4 rebounds, and close to 2 assists in around 23 minutes per game. That would be solid on its own. But his third season changed the conversation entirely. He jumped up to over 15 points, 5 rebounds, and nearly 3 assists per game in 24. And he did it while shooting a ridiculous 58% from the field. That kind of efficiency from a wing is no joke. He also earned a starting spot that season, showing clear trust from the coaching staff. But it's not just numbers. He played a real role in Denver's championship run, and that winning experience adds to his value. He's defending, rebounding, finishing, and playing smart basketball across the board. He's not an all-star yet, but for a late first-rounder, he's been a home run. Efficient, productive, reliable. That's why Braun walks away with a rock-solid A grade. 22nd pick. With the 22nd pick, the Utah Jazz took Walker Kessler. Kessler's grade 4 years later is an A. This pick turned into one of the best values in the entire draft. Kessler's averaging over 9 points, 9 rebounds, and more than 2 blocks per game across his first 3 seasons. His third year saw him post around 11 points and over 12 rebounds per night, shooting over 66% from the field. His defense has been elite. He became the first player since Tim Duncan to average at least 2 blocks per game in each of his first 3 seasons. That kind of rim protection is rare, especially from a player taken outside the lottery. He started over half the games in year 3 and anchored the Jazz defense as a full-time big. He doesn't stretch the floor, and his offense mostly comes around the rim, but when you're converting nearly 70% of your shots and controlling the glass, that's a fair trade. For where he was drafted, Kessler's exceeded every reasonable expectation. He's productive, efficient, and a defensive force. Not quite an all-star yet, but he's getting close. That's why Walker Kessler earns an A. 23rd pick. With the 23rd pick, the Memphis Grizzlies took David Roddy. Roddy's grade 4 years later is an F. He came in with great college stats. 19 points a game, over 7 rebounds, and a strong shooting clip. But that hasn't translated at the pro level. In 3 seasons, he's averaged just over 6 points and fewer than 3 rebounds per game while playing under 17 minutes a night. That's already disappointing for a first-round pick, but it gets worse. His shooting hasn't helped his case either. He's hitting just over 42% from the field and around 30% from 3 across 3 seasons. That's a bad combo when you're expected to stretch the floor or contribute meaningful scoring. His role hasn't grown either. He's bounced around teams, been included in multi-team trades, and was even waived in 25. That lack of stability is a red flag for any prospect, especially one drafted in the top 25. He hasn't carved out a spot, hasn't improved meaningfully, and hasn't made himself valuable to any team. That's a hard miss at this point in his career. Roddy's outcome so far clearly earns a failing grade, F. 24th pick. With the 24th pick, the Milwaukee Bucks took MarJon Beauchamp. Beauchamp's grade 4 years later is a D-. He came in as a developmental wing with scoring upside, but the development hasn't materialized in any consistent way. Across his first 3 seasons, he's averaged just over 4 points and under 2 rebounds per game in less than 11 minutes a night. That's barely enough to qualify as a bench regular, let alone a first-round success. He shot 40% from 3 in his second season, which sounds good until you remember he only played about 13 minutes per game and didn't follow it up with increased playing time or production. In fact, year 3 saw a huge dip in role, just 4.5 minutes per game, spread across short stints with 3 different teams. That lack of consistency, plus his minimal impact, makes it hard to find upside at this point. His shooting and physical tools are fine, but they haven't translated into a real NBA role. He's bouncing around teams instead of climbing a rotation. That's why the grade is D-. Not a total bust, but 4 years in, he's way off track for a first-rounder. 25th pick. With the 25th pick, the San Antonio Spurs took Blake Wesley. Wesley's grade 4 years later is a D+. He showed promise coming out of Notre Dame, but it hasn't really carried over. Across 3 seasons, he's averaged just over 4 points and a little more than 2 assists in around 14 minutes per game. His role has actually gotten smaller since his rookie year, and that's never a great sign. His shooting hasn't helped either. He's hovering around 41% from the field and under 30% from three. For a young guard trying to stick in the league, that's not cutting it. Even worse, he started only 4 games across more than 160 appearances. This offseason, he got traded, waived, and then picked up by Portland. That's a lot of movement in a short stretch. Still, there's a little hope. He's flashed a few decent games here and there, and he's still only 22. But facts are facts. He's not where you'll want a first-round pick to be by year 3. He hasn't carved out a role, and the efficiency's been rough. That's why Blake Wesley gets a D+, 26th pick. With the 26th pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves took Wendell Moore Jr. Moore's grade 4 years later is a D+. He came out of Duke with a strong, all-around game and solid defensive tools. But so far, that hasn't led to much of a role in the NBA. Over 3 seasons, he's averaged just over 2 points and under 9 minutes per game. Even in his most productive year, he only managed around 4 points in under 14 minutes a night. The shooting has been inconsistent. He shot under 26% from 3 across his first 2 years, but did bounce back to over 34% in year 3. That's encouraging, but the sample size is small, and his minutes are still limited. He's already been moved across multiple teams and recently signed a 2-way deal with Charlotte. That's not where you want to be as a former first-round pick, trying to prove your value. He's still showing small signs of growth, and his defensive background from college keeps him interesting. But at this stage, he hasn't met the standard for a pick in his range. That's why Wendell Moore Jr. gets a D+, 27th pick. With the 27th pick, the Miami Heat took Nikola Jovic. Jovic's grade 4 years later is a B. He's come along nicely for a late first rounder. This past season, he averaged nearly 11 points, almost 4 rebounds, and close to 3 assists per game, while playing over 25 minutes a night. That's a solid jump from earlier years and reflects growing trust from the team. His shooting's respectable too, about 46% from the field and 37% from 3. Over his first 4 years, he's averaged close to 9 points in just over 21 minutes per game. That's a real rotation player, not a bench warmer. Miami clearly sees value in him. They handed him a 4-year extension worth over $62 million. That kind of deal doesn't go to guys they're unsure about. He's got great size and floor spacing ability, which makes him a fit in today's league. He hasn't exploded into stardom, but for a pick that late, you're looking for a reliable contributor, and that's what he's become. If he improves his playmaking, defense, and rebounding, there's room to grow. But based on where he started and where he is now, a B grade fits perfectly. 28th pick. With the 28th pick, the Golden State Warriors took Patrick Baldwin Jr. Baldwin's grade 4 years later is a D. He came into the league as a 6'9" forward with shooting potential, but that upside hasn't materialized in NBA minutes. Across 3 seasons, he's averaged under 4 points and just 2 rebounds in fewer than 9 minutes per game. He's had short stints with the Warriors, Wizards, Clippers, and briefly the Spurs, who ended up waiving him. That much movement doesn't exactly scream long-term value. While his shooting percentages in year 3 saw a small uptick, over 54% from the field and nearly 37% from 3, it came in a tiny role, playing under 5 minutes per game. The volume just not there to draw a real conclusion. In the G League, he's looked better, averaging over 17 points and nearly 7 rebounds per game. That shows he still has tools, but he hasn't shown he can apply them against consistent NBA competition. He's still young, and there's a sliver of hope if the shooting sticks. But 4 years in, he hasn't established a real NBA role. That's why Patrick Baldwin Jr. lands at a D 29th pick. With the 29th pick, the Houston Rockets took Ty Washington Jr. Washington's grade 4 years later is an F. He had a solid season at Kentucky and was expected to develop into at least a reliable guard off the bench. Instead, he's averaged just over 3 points and 1 assist in about 10 minutes per game across 3 seasons. Those numbers are way below what you'd want from a first-round pick. Even at the back end, his shooting has been especially rough. He's hit just under 35% from the field and only around 24% from 3 across his NBA games. That's not going to keep anyone in a rotation, and it shows. His minutes haven't grown at all. In fact, he's played fewer games each season and hasn't stuck with any team long. He's been with multiple franchises already and spent most of his time bouncing between NBA benches and the G League. While his G League stats look solid, they haven't translated into meaningful NBA production. 4 years in, there's been little sign of growth or upside in actual NBA action. That's why Ty Washington Jr. earns a clear F below the bar for a first-round pick, 30th pick. With the 30th pick, the Denver Nuggets took Peyton Watson. Watson's grade 4 years later is a B. He was always a long-term project, and so far, that bet's paying off. He's played in over 170 games and steadily increased his role each season. As a rookie, he barely cracked 8 minutes per game. By year 3, he was averaging over 24 minutes a night with 8 points and 3 rebounds on nearly 48% shooting from the field. His three-point shot has come around too, sitting at just over 35% this season. That makes him much more viable as a wing in today's game. He's long, athletic, and fits well in Denver's system. He's not a flashy scorer, but he's dependable, and that matters. He's still not a breakout starter or putting up big numbers, but for a final first-round pick, he's carved out real value. He was even part of their championship team, which adds another checkmark in his column. There's room to grow, more scoring, more consistency, more impact, but he's delivered more than most late picks do by year 3. That's why Peyton Watson earns a strong, earned B grade. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here. I would greatly appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.